What's up, guys? It's the essential Johnny Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
And you guys are tuned into Caught
in Conversation.
Shaka laka laka. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 124 of Caught in Conversation. Don't yuck, someone's yum. As always, I am the essential Johnny Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
And today we are talking to Jimmy Vigorous, Johnny Vercetti, Johnny Vercetti. And it was a very fun conversation, a very lengthy conversation, as you'll tell by the length of this episode. But we did everything that this podcast stands for, Nova. We ranted, we reviewed, we marked out. And as the new t-shirt says, which you can buy on prowrestlingtees.com/crossfire, for the marks, by the marks, very much so. Really enjoyed it. And obviously, if you see the description and you see the thumbnail, you'll know that it's Johnny Vercetti. But I feel like still got to do it, still got to talk about it. And obviously, Nova will give him an official intro in a moment. But we're going to quickly power through the song and match of the week so we can get to this conversation for you guys. And then we will time travel to the outro. So Nova Lee, please hit us with the song and match of the week for episode 124. Don't yuck, someone jump. And then explain a little bit why we have picked these songs for this episode. So please hit it.
Alrighty. So the song of the week for episode 124 was Hit Me Baby One More Time, the Jack Black version. And then the match of the week for our episode 124 was TJP versus Lynx Lewis Jr. Suplex Chapter 12, the Cruiserweight Can't Wait.
Yes. And why have we picked these two matches? Why have we picked this song and the match, Nova?
We picked this song because we mentioned it about there was a World Series. I wasn't at that one, so I don't know how to elaborate on that.
Yes, that was pre-meeting Nova Lee, but
you've told me about
the famous story, and we have talked about it. One of the matches that Vercetti does mention in this, amongst a lot of matches and rambling, because it's Caught in Conversation, and that's what we do, was when Marty Scurll came out after Slex and Matt Riddle broke the ring. Obviously, Matt Riddle just announced for the next lot of World Series tours. The ring was broken, and it was around the time when Marty was doing karaoke because he was trying to get a record deal in the Being the Elite YouTube series. And yeah, basically, happy accident. The ring broke. He came out and sang Hit Me Baby One More Time, which is obviously Britney Spears, but Jack Black just did a version. I got a massive man crush on Jack Black. Everyone has a massive man. I think Mrs Crossfire, Miss Nova Lee, has a man crush.
Yeah.
on Jack Black.
I'm the man.
And obviously, why did we pick this match, Nova Lee?
I can't remember, because my ADHD brain doesn't know, so you should say it, because I can't remember.
We picked this match because Lynx Lewis Jr. comes up a few times in this conversation. Obviously, was one of the former Suplex Junior Heavyweight Champions. TJP comes up in this conversation a few times as well, because obviously we've all met him and very fun. Vercetti got to learn from him at the Suplex show where he wrestled Lynx Lewis Jr., so it just felt appropriate to pick this match. But again, it's two and a half hour conversation. We picked it for a reason. We picked it for a reason, but it's fine.
And then we went on a rant when we went off air looking at jerseys and shit. So my mind is like, jerseys.
And it's going to sell out before I have the money. And God damn it, Vercetti, what have you done? But Nova Lee, would you like to introduce our guest? So, first of all, put your hands together.
Alrighty. Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Vercetti!
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with the one and only Johnny Vercetti. Here's Johnny. That's the placeholder for the episode. It might change depending on some of the funny stories he's going to tell us, but as of now, that's what I've got it slated as. But look, we've just talked for 3, 4, 5 minutes off air, but how are you actually doing this this Tuesday evening as we record this?
Yeah, not too bad. Had a bit of a day during the day today. Had a bit of an emotional day, so I went and did some retail therapy and spent some money on shit that I didn't need to buy, but that's life, you know how it is.
I will say, though, obviously I've got you on your personal Facebook, so I did see some of those things. Those fucking baseball jerseys and the hats were kind of clean, and that's another rant that we could probably go on this fucking podcast, just about how much we love jerseys, because I've got 30-odd just fucking basketball jerseys that I probably should, cull some of them at some point. But how good are sports jerseys? Doesn't matter what sport it is, they're all just so good.
I have I have an actual retro throwback, like green Mighty Ducks jersey, like from the actual movie.
I actually just got one of them the other day. It was gifted to me by a friend. It's technically Anaheim Ducks, but it doesn't have Anaheim written on it because it was directly a reference to the movie.
So my one is the one that you actually see them playing in the movie with like the ducks on it with like the old school shitty duck logo. Like I'll send you a photo of it when we get off this.
I'm trying to grab it. But
I also have a Happy Gilmore jersey.
I don't have the Gilmore jersey, but I've got the jumper because I am actually a Bruins fan, Boston Bruins in ice hockey. So one of my friends got that. But yeah, I'll put it there, and I'll just send you a photo of it later. I think it's technically Anaheim Ducks, but it was directly after the movie came out, so the colours and everything are very, very close.
No, mine's even got like Conway on the back. Like it's everything the movie.
I actually want to watch the new series they just did, but before we start ranting about fucking movies and sport and everything else, and Nova Lee could chime in with God knows how many different sports jersey that she's bought herself, let alone the ones that I've bought her for birthdays and Christmases and whatever else. But Nova Lee, if you'd like to jump in and ask our guest the first question, because there's going to be a lot of ranting in this, Johnny. There always is. So I'll let her do the first question, and then we'll get away with the other ranting and stuff as we go.
And as you probably know, we've got like a core 5 that we always ask, so you'll get hit with the 5 core questions.
This is the generic questions, but they're good little icebreakers for the first time here on the pod.
But yeah,
let's get into them then.
The first one up is, what is your earliest wrestling memory?
Funnily enough, like before we jumped on air, I was even thinking, I was like, if they hit me with like, what's your first wrestling memory? I'm going to be like an absolute fucking potato because I honestly cannot remember. The only thing that I can physically remember that stood out the most about wrestling for me when I was younger, like apart from being silly with a few of the boys up here that I went to school with and stuff, doing backyard stuff. It was like, I think it was just like a weekend, come home or like wake up, put Fox 8 on and whatever was on, whether that be like a SmackDown show or like even old school TNA, like when TNA was like the original 6-sided. So it's probably going to be one of those two. I honestly couldn't tell you what it was.
Any particular wrestlers that drew you in once you did start watching?
Yeah.
There was two that stood out the most for me, like for TNA wise. One of them was Shark Boy. No idea why. I think it was just I think it was just the gimmick because it was like such a parody of Austin, and it was just so stupid, like that it just popped me. And the second one that stood out the most for me, and I got really lucky when he was out here in Australia, like I got to drive him back to Sydney and got to hang out with him for a bit with Tim Wilkes, was the Cowboy James Storm. Yes. So like we got to road trip like from Newey back to Sydney with him, like, and spend a couple hours with him, like, and then like the clarity of me watching him when I was growing up to now him technically being like one of my peers was just like so mind blowing. And it was just like every now and then, like when I was driving to Sydney, I'd have to glance over and be like, holy fuck, like Cowboy is in my car. Like, oh, what is this?
Was that when he did the HVW shows?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get a timeline of this, that's all, in my ADHD brain.
Yeah, no, man, I'm with you on that 100%. But it's like, yeah, like obviously there's always like inspirations and stuff to do with wrestling. Like for me, my all-time GOAT will be Eddie Guerrero, like without fail.
I mean, look, you've Kieran it right here. Like I'm probably the biggest Eddie Guerrero mark you'll ever meet. One of the very first podcast episodes I did was actually meant to be the very first that just get put back, but I think it was like episode 9 or 10, like way back fucking 3 years ago when the audio was still shit and the episode itself is probably shit, so maybe it needs to be redone. But I actually did a full episode of, and obviously just my opinion, but I did a full episode of the top 10 matches of Eddie Guerrero, and I watched like hundreds of matches to make that list as unbiased as I possibly fucking could.
Yeah. Like, so like his tribute show, I cried throughout the entire thing. Like, cried like a 3-year-old girl. Like, it was insane. Like even for me, like my favorite Guerrero match is him and Angle from WrestleMania 20. Like, I mean, he has bangers and bangers well before that as well, like with Ray and all that. But like, just the way that match itself played out was just like, holy shit.
Him and Angle just had amazing chemistry, though. One of the matches I put on that list was actually, it was just a random SmackDown match, which I think was just like a number 1 contenders match or something they were in. And it was just, it had no right for a match that was on, well, not free to air TV because it was pay TV here in Australia, but for a match on TV as opposed to a proper pay-per-view match, dude, it had no right to slap as hard as it did. I think it was like 3 segs long. And then like, that was where the seeds were kind of planted for Eddie and Ray to start feuding again for the final time. It was fucking awesome.
But like, that being said itself, like anything to do with the Guerrero last name is just off its tits. Like, even some of the shit that Chavo was doing, like, it was nuts.
Chavo is one where like people go like, who's underrated? And then like it kind of varies like the order depending on my mood. But Chavo is always in that top 3 of like everyone kind of gets overshadowed because of what Eddie did. But honestly, like one of the most underrated guys ever. Like you can like go watch a Chavo match from even like his rookie years, like when he was, being Eddie's little sidekick in WCW to like the beginnings of the WWE version of the Cruiserweight division in like 0203. Like Chavo was doing shit, man. He was doing some good shit.
People pick up on his talent though, because literally, like, he's backstage in how many different wrestling shows?
Well, I mean, how many things? Like, he's like just the go-to now.
Like, fuck.
Like he did Glow, and then now, he's just
Glow,
Young
heels,
Rock.
Young
Anything that Hollywood
Rock as
needs
well.
wrestling now, it's gotten to a point where Chavo is involved in some form or fashion. Even if he's not physically in the ring training actors, they're like, hey, Chavo, would this person sell like this or like this? And it's like, imagine that, like just fucking like big-time Hollywood people just going, oh, you're the wrestling guy, we need you. Like, of all the wrestlers, like they could call The Rock and be like, we want wrestling, but they're like, no, let's go to this guy.
I reckon the most underrated wrestler is Kerwin White.
Oh man, you know what though? That gimmick brought us the first ever look at Nick Nemeth. So in my marky little opinion, that was top tier. Because thank you, Chavo, for bringing in Nick Nemeth. He was a caddy and he was a male cheerleader.
When I met him up in Brisbane last year for this year for the World Series tour, like, I obviously gave him shit for that gimmick, but I was just like, dude, like, if it wasn't for that, like, there would be no Dolph Ziggler, there would be no Nick Nemeth, like, and he goes, he's like, I owe so much to Chavo. And I'm like, yeah, you would, like, once again, there's no Chavo, there's none of that.
But imagine, like, those days, right? Like, we don't want to rant too much because this is your story and Nova has more questions to ask, but you look at it as, even in those day and age where whoever was paired on TV were 9 out of 10 times, whether they liked it or not, they were forced to travel together anyway. Imagine just sitting in a car with Chavo for 5 hours at a time on a daily fucking basis and just picking his brain. Like, that to me, it's bonkers when you think about it. Like, that's...
Yeah. Like, he's probably the one guy that I would want to travel with. Like, actually, either one of them, like Nemeth or Chavo, I would happily sit in the car with either of them and just be like, teach me the ways.
I always name drop Chavo a lot because I got to meet him when he did the BCW Lucha Underground tour at the end of 2018 or start of 2019. It was around that time anyway. And like, I was just like, hey man, like, look, I've been working for X amount of years. I need a new finisher. Really want to use the frog splash because Eddie was my hero. And like, he gave me permission for that. And I was like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. But then he gave me that advice, which it's kind of obvious and we all say it, but coming from someone of that, like that level, just going, remember, no matter what you do, stick to the basics. So no matter how many rookies we have come through, I'll be like, Chavo told me, stick to the fucking basics. He said it. Yeah, listen to Chavo.
It's like, I got permission off Guerrero to use the frog splash, but fuck you, stick to the basics.
Yeah, like, stick to the basics. That's the most important part of that conversation.
Yeah, 100%. Right, question number 2.
So question number 2 is, what was the deciding factor that got you into the business, and when did you decide that you wanted to do it?
oh shit. Once again, it falls back to like when you were younger, you watch it on TV and you're like, I can do that. That's not that hard. And then you do it and you're like, that was a terrible idea. So like, yeah, like, it falls back to backyarding and stuff. Like I wrestled for a backyard company up here called NWF, which was the Newcastle Wrestling faction. Funnily enough, I think that there is still video somewhere on YouTube. I hope not, but I think there is. And then obviously that transitioned into, okay, like let's see where we can actually take it with this. And a few of the people that I did like backyarding with, like in that particular company, also made it pro as well. I'm going to name drop just two of them because actually I think they're the only two that come with me. Back then he was known as James Derringer. Nowadays, everybody knows him as the Trench Walker Jackson Spade.
I was expecting him to be one of them. Who's the other one?
Yeah.
Then the other one, back when we were yard tards, his wrestling name was Kano, like from Mortal Kombat, and he then went on to become Scotty Matthews, and then that formally went from Scotty Matthews into Justin Gray. He was a part of one of probably the greatest tag teams I saw when I was wrestling in the Shinju Soldiers, which was him and, at the time, Adam Lord, which then became Adam Asics.
Ah, yes. I was like, I've heard that tag before, but yes, okay. Now I'm with you now.
Yeah, and then the second part of the question, obviously, like why I got into it. Like as cliche as it sounds, like it wasn't anything to do with wanting to make it to the bigs or like. Don't get me wrong, like everyone wants to make it to the bigs, but like for me, it was just being that. Like, 'cause I grew up with sports, and everyone has that one hero, and getting to like have the opportunity to brush shoulders with your heroes, like it's always that holy shit moment. So for me, it was always more about the people in the crowd than what it was for me doing what I wanted to do. Like I put my body through hell just so that, say, 7-year-old in the crowd could be like, oh my God, like I got to meet him like after the show. So for me, it was always about the fans, not so much of wanting to do this, so to speak.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get that because like I surprisingly, like if you listen to this podcast, I don't shut the fuck up. But in the real world, I'm a very introverted person, and like as a kid, I was like heavily bullied. So for me, I was like I felt a certain way escaping reality watching wrestling, and it kind of evolved to, like I want to make that kid feel the same way that I felt, and whether it's a man, woman, child, whatever, like I want people to fucking just forget about all their worries within that 10 minutes or so that I'm out there.
I still laugh.
100%.
Still laugh with the last ECW show. You went into the toilets and you were just doing like commentary.
Like I had this kid like full fanboying, and like I'm just play by play because I'm just like how's your night? You having a good night? And he full just fucking froze, man, and he was like, yeah. He's like, thank you. He's like, this has been so cool, and I'm like, I'll pass it on, man. Like I just got a mic in my hand. I ain't doing shit.
I still think for me, like the biggest like holy shit moment for me being like a worker was back like when I like in the year or two after I debuted for SWA, because like my gimmick there was like the Mikey Whipwreck. Like I get my ass kicked, the crowd will love me. I get my ass kicked even harder the next show, crowd will love me even more. Like that went on for nearly a year of just consistently turning up and getting my ass handed to me. Going to like a local shopping center, like during the week, not thinking anything of it, and walking past someone and like them doing the double take and like use my stage name, and then like me hearing it and turning around, like just watching their eyes be like, holy shit, he shops near where I shop. Like, and having that little like having that like little moment outside of like wrestling itself was kind of like that will always stay with me. Like, and it's so cool.
See, that's only ever happened to me twice. It's probably never going to happen again, to be honest. It is what it is. But I was, we were at a fucking, it wasn't Shiny Carney. It was one of the fucking Canberra festivals anyway. And we're just like, hey, like, live pro wrestling tonight, holding out the flyers. And there's just like this dad and son they're like, oh my God, you're John Crossfire. Is there a show on tonight? I'm like, yeah, fucking come along. And they came along and I was like, woo, I brought 2 people. And then there was another time where I was working at a steakhouse when I was living in Canberra at the time, and I worked out a deal where at the time, the place I was working, they let me put the posters up in the restaurant, and all they did was just tell Rex, hey, just put our logo like on the bottom of the poster sort of thing. And they're like, oh, wrestling, and I'm like doing the dude's like, you know, fucking giving him the bill sort of thing, and he's looking at the poster and he's looking at me. He's like, wait a minute. He's like, I watched you on one of these shows. He's like, you're that army fella. And I'm like, army fella, that's close enough, Crossfire.
He's like yeah, you're that guy with the hair. Like
he's like, you're the guy that wore the camo. And I'm like, there was 3 of us wearing camo, but I was one of them, so it counts. Fucking counts. I'm taking it.
So I think that's why, like honestly, like throughout my career, like I've gone through that many different gear sets, like it's stupid. But like ever since I debuted like my pink gear, like the funny story behind my pink gear, like obviously we'll explain that later on. But like I got them because I was like, they stand out, they're different. There's something that isn't the generic like, oh my God, look at me, these are my wrestling pants. And obviously this was well and truly before I knew about JXT and all the shit that he wore, and I was like, oh God damn it. But like, yeah, so like when I got my pinks, still to this day, like I remember it as clear as possible. I took the top rope nut spot. Like I'm sitting on the turnbuckle, like, oh, my nuts, where? The kid in the crowd yells out, "Oi, Vercetti, Lady Gaga called. She wants her pants back." And straight away, like I'm like at the time, like I'm the heel. Like I'm sitting on the top. I'm trying so hard not to pop at that I'm sitting there, like my head's like so far down, tucked into my arms, and I'm just like, this match needs to end right now because I cannot deal with this.
Oh, fuck yes. It's funny, though, that you mention it, because, like, obviously I've never actually seen you wrestle live, but hearing your name over the years through people like Spade and Maltino and people like that, whenever I think of you, my mind automatically goes to the pink gear just from seeing photos and little clips here and there, so it's kind of funny that you bring that up. But those are the best little moments, though, like, because especially as a heel, you can kind of be like, fuck, like, you know, you're trying not to laugh. But in that moment, it's like Sheamus with the mohawk where they started chanting, "You look stupid." He's like, at first he was like, oh yeah, I do look stupid. But then he's like, fuck it, I'm a heel, I can make this work. You'd be like, okay, you want to make fun of the pink gear? Fuck it, I'll get a pink jacket or I'll put on pink shoes as well. Like,
so there was a suplex show. Actually, I've got the thing here, so I'll be able to tell you the exact show and everything, like match details and A, B, C, and D's. So it was the 23rd of the 4th, 22. So it's Suplex Chapter 28. I'm in a 4-way match. It's myself versus El Volante versus Mikey Ward versus Cessnock's favorite son, Alan. So originally I was due to come out like second or third because we were the first match back after intermission. And Mr. Mortis gets on the mic and makes an announcement that there's a young girl in the crowd. It's her birthday, so we're going to start singing Happy Birthday. And they get halfway through the song, and like the tech plays my intro, and I'm like looking around, and I'm like what the fuck? Like I'm not coming out first. But then I was like, you know what? Like I'm the heel. Like I'm gonna make this all about me. Like I don't give a flying fuck that it's your birthday. Like this is my moment now. So I've walked out. Crowd hate me as they do. Walked right up to the birthday girl, and I was like, oh my God, like it's your birthday. And she's like, yeah. And I've gone to give her a high five, and she's probably maybe, we'll go 5 to 10 centimeters away from actually getting that connection of a high five. And within that split second, I just turn it, flip her off, and just keep walking. And instantly the crowd are into me so much more. Then I go to get into the ring, and there's this lady that sits front row, and she made a remark about me wearing pink. And without hesitation, I've just turned back around, and I was like, yeah, well, you know what they say, like, at least my pink bits are pink, unlike what yours look like. And kind of just roll back into the ring, and I was just like,
good God. It's a family show, brother.
Yeah, like it wasn't until that, like after the match happened, and I'm sitting there, and I was like, oh shit, like I just said what I said. But then fast forward to like the job that I've not long ago recently left to go back into security. The lady who I made that remark to actually worked at the company that I worked for, and she was payroll. So I'm just like, sorry about what I said, but you're welcome.
You remember that one time at band camp? Can we just ignore that I said that?
That guy walked into the office one day and I was like, hello, ladies.
Oh, fuck. Oh, I love that so much.
Question number 3.
All right, now, you did mention to me, kind of tongue-in-cheek, like off-air, that, feel free to ask me about, the 700 retirements. But, honestly, like, we all have love-hate relationships with wrestling at time. And, like, dude, I had to take I took a 2-month hiatus when I was only, like, a year and a half in just because I was already sick of all the politics and bullshit and fucking whatever else, right? But just tell us, man, like, what kind of prompted you to want to step away for the beginning, but at the same time, man, what keeps you coming back?
So I stopped for quite a while because I was just over the two-facedness behind wrestling. Like, you've got a lot of people that when you meet them, they're like, oh my God, hey, like, how are you? Like, it's so nice to meet you. And then the moment you turn around, straight away, they're like, oh, that guy's such a dick. Like, don't book him. Don't do this. Don't do that. Like, avoid him as much as possible. So, like, the backstabbingness, the pettiness, the bullshit, the politics of, oh, why are they getting the push and not me? Like, I've been here since day one. Like, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have this. If it wasn't for this, you wouldn't have that. So, like, the main reason I stepped away was due to the fact of I was over the schoolyard bullshit. Like, we're all adults. Like, we're all here for the same reason. Not, like, it's not a dick measuring competition. Like, cool. Yours might be bigger than mine, but I've been doing this longer than you. And then the reason I came back was, like, my now ex-partner, her son had never seen me wrestle. Like, he knew about me wrestling. Excuse me. He'd seen videos of me wrestling, but he'd never actually seen me wrestle. So I got into contact with Spade because I took the photos for the first couple suplex shows. And then he was doing like a 10-man battle royal pre-show for one of the suplex shows. And I was like, oi, like I'm keen, like, let's do it. And I told him that I was like, told the young fella that I was taking backstage photos so he wouldn't be able to see me throughout the show because obviously I got to work out the back. And there's footage of it. Like, I've got the footage on my phone. My music hits and he just loses his shit. But the best part was, like, he used, like, my shoot name instead of realizing, like, no, this isn't blah, like, it's Johnny Vercetti. So it's like, the footage itself, like, it's so cute because he's wearing a b-boy mask. Like, he physically loses it because he's like, holy shit, like, he's getting to see this, like, now in person. So then obviously, like, I stuck around for a while to benefit him because he was getting the rub of the backstage area. Like, he was getting to meet all these different people that, like, if you're not in the business, like, you don't get the chance to meet them unless, like, post-show or, like, if there's something pre-show. Like, he got to meet TJP at a suplex show just for the sheer fact of, like, I was on the card. Like, and when we met when he re-met TJP up at World Series, like, he bring that up to him and he was like, I've met you before, like, I met you at Suplex. And, like, even TJP then turned around and he goes, oh, I remember that show because I wrestled Lynx Lewis. And I was just like, it's all these little moments that, like, for me going back wasn't for me, it was for him. And now I'm at the point now, like, after I did my ankle pretty badly last year, I've done, like, a couple little things here and there, but, like, I'm at that point now where, like, I'm kind of content that I'm done. Like, I have no issues, like, here and there maybe donning the pink tights again, but it's one of them ones where, like, if this is it, this is it. Like, it honestly doesn't faze me anymore, if that makes sense.
That's fair enough. I mean, like, you were in the business for you know,
Decent chunk of time.
all in all, like irregardless of, you know, in-ring activity and stuff, you were still, you know, quote unquote in the business for well over 10 years, right? And especially in Australia and especially in New South Wales, without, you know, going on a rant and burying people, there's some toxic shit. Like, arguably, you know, everyone shat on Queensland for years, but New South Wales, in terms of the toxicity and shit, is probably the worst it's ever been. And the fact that you managed to stay for that long in the business that's almost an accolade in itself, to be honest. And, like, that's just my opinion. You might view things differently, but, you know, from an outsider looking in, part of me, even now, like, I've been out for almost 4 years. Like, I've been out of the ring longer than I wrestled in my, you know, career, half-assed, whatever the fuck you want to call that. And there's honestly part of me where I sit back and I look at some of the shit from the outside and I'm like, I'm so glad that I don't have to deal with this shit. Like, I'm glad that, you know, there's some shows that I wish I could be at to do commentary and that, and health gets in the way, but there's other shows where I'm like, you know, for whatever reason, I can't make it just due to health or funds, and then I find out about what's happened at the show and I'm like, I'm fucking glad I didn't go to that shit, man. Like, there's just so much politics and bullshit. Like, I feel you. Like, I want to have, you know, from my perspective, I still want to have, you know, one more match eventually when I'm healthy, just so I can do it on my terms. But I 100% get that. Like, I'm content. Like, I'm just here doing my thing. Like, I don't feel the need to be involved every single show and, you know, make a dick of myself. I'm just like, and that's from someone that's only been in the business for 8 years and only wrestled for fucking just under 4 of them. Like, I 100% get where you're coming from there.
Fuck it, let's just get on to we'll book it. Next ECW. Me and you, I'll put you over. We'll do it. We'll done and dusted that shit. I'll ride off into the sunset. No one knows any different. If you listen and book this shit.
I'm going to have to edit that one out, but that's fine. Insert ECW management here. But no, we can have an arm wrestling contest or something.
Well, no, we can't do that. You'd fucking kick my ass. I got no arms.
But yeah, no, I get you, man. Like, the fact that you've been in the business for that long, and especially like even before that, right? Like, everyone looks looks down on backyard wrestling, and in some cases, maybe rightfully so. But the fact that you know, put your body through all that shit for X amount of time before you actually went pro, like, that's still, it's still a lot more than some people do. So honestly, like, kudos to you, man, for sticking around that long. And it's good to hear. It's good to hear though that you say, sorry to cut you off, but it is good to hear those, you say that you are content, because there's a lot of people that'll sit there and be like fucking like all bitter and shit and you know, should have been me. And the fact that you can look at that and be like, hey, you got to wrestle in front of the young fella and you got to, you know, meet this person and meet that person, and that makes you happy. That makes me happy to hear.
Yeah, but it's like, shit, I forgot what I was going to say now. I can't even remember.
My apologies. I just went on a rant myself there, but
oh no, it's fun. Like, it'll be one of them things where, like, we'll talk and then I'll have like that brain fart moment and be like, oh, this is what I was going to say. Yeah, no, that's good. I got no idea.
But do you see yourself, like, in theory, do you see yourself coming back, like, one more time, or as you said, are you just happy to just leave it like that?
I don't know.
I feel like that's probably the best way to answer, because they always do say, you know, never say never in wrestling and whatever else. So I think that's fair enough.
I'm at that point where yesterday you could have asked me and it would have been never say never. Like, you could ask me tomorrow and it would be like, no, I'm fucking done. Like, it has its days. Like I recently just cleared out the suitcase that has all my gear in it, like, just to give it a tidy up, just to be like, okay, cool, I can keep this, I can keep that, okay, I need to get rid of that now. But it's like there's days, like, there are people that are working today that, like, I would love to maybe get in there and mix it up with, but then I look back at all the people that I've worked that, like, are names that most people today won't know, and it's just like, that kind of goes to show, well, one, my age, and two, the fact of, like, nobody really looks back at like the history of like New South Wales and goes like, holy shit. Like for me, my debut match was against like an IWA veteran in Aurora. Like she kicked the absolute piss out of me. But for me, it was like, holy shit, like I'm getting to work somebody that I watched on TV. Like when IWA was on TV and like on Fox. Like I'm going to go my first 3 matches after I debuted were with names of people that I've either watched on TV or since wrestling them have become like my closest friends. And like, it's just eye-opening to go like, holy shit, like this world that we live in can either make or break you. And like, I'm really lucky that I've got some of my closest friends now through this weird ass business. And I just remembered what I was going to say before.
Excellent.
Because I read something here. I don't even know how it clicked, but I read something and I was like, that's what I wanted to talk about. The contentness of like being able to vocalize backyard wrestling. Like you've got people, like I was listening to a podcast probably about 5 years ago now, and it was a Will Ospreay podcast. Ospreay yarded, the Hardy Boys yarded, Seth Rollins yarded. Like all of these big names, now that wrestling is a world-known thing, are happily admitting that, okay, cool, I used to do this. I used to do that. I used to do this. It's like we've got people who are based in Australia doing New Japan shows that used to be a backyard wrestler.
I'm glad you bring this up because as you just said that, I just had a thought, right? And obviously it was a few years before Ospreay started because there's a slight age gap. But Will Ospreay actually knew of Robbie Eagles because of the backyard fucking stuff he did through the backyard wrestling community and the power of the internet. That is fucking cool. Like, I don't care what your opinion of backyarding is or not, like that level of recognition or like, brotherhood and community, that's cool. That's fucking cool.
So that's the podcast that I was referring to. Like, that's the exact podcast when he made reference of he knew about HVWA. But what popped me the most about that entire podcast wasn't the fact that he knew Robbie Eagles, or back then he was known as James Cyanite. What popped me the most is one of my really close friends, Matty Craig. He was Poo Muffin. Fuck knows how or why that name. But what popped me the most in that whole Ospreay podcast wasn't the fact that he knew a company out of Newcastle or like backyarding even in Australia. It was the fact that he mentioned Poo Muffin. That is what
that's fucking cool though. That is awesome.
It's like every year when it pops up in my memories on Facebook, I always take a screenshot and send it and be like, remember that time that Ospreay knew you by name? Look at what could have been. Yeah, that.
World Series Wrestling, all I'm going to say, Poo Muffin, Will Ospreay. I can smell the money.
Dude, if they book Poo Muffin and Will Ospreay, I will get referee that shit.
But like, because even as you're saying that as well, another name just popped into my mind, Richie Taylor. Him and Robbie Eagles go all the way back because of the backyarding. And look at Richie Taylor was just announced to be wrestling Bobby Fish in November.
See,
he started backyarding, right? That's fucking cool.
Taylor versus Fish is going to be an absolute fucking banger.
I'm pissed off because I was meant to be at that show, but I have yet another emergency fucking medical appointment 2 weeks later, but I digress.
So, there we go itself. Like, even for me going back, because I knew Richie Taylor as a different name. And, like, when we all got together and, like, we all were on a suplex show together, like, we were reminiscing. It was like, do you remember when blah, or do you remember when blah? And it was just like, the looks on our face was, fuck, we were stupid. Like, there was a massive thing that happened in Melbourne every year. It was called the Tournament of Hate.
Yes, I've heard partake of this, yes.
Yeah, I'm super happy that I never got involved in any of them. I'm going to assume at the time that Spade was happy he never got involved in them. Nowadays, I think Spade would fit in perfectly for that because of like the whole explicit shows and stuff. But like just going back and watching some of the stuff that happened back then, it was like, fuck, we were morons.
I could be wrong, but I think the MDU actually just have got the trademark now, or at least permission now to use that. They were going to use it at some point before, they took their hiatus, which is, again, it's cool. It's a callback to whether you look at it fondly or not, or if you think that it's wrestling or not. It's a part of culture. It's a part of history, and it's cool that, 10, 15, 20 years later, shit like that still gets referenced. Like, that's cool.
Yeah. Like, it's nuts.
As I remember 2022 when Richie, quote unquote retired, as we talk about in wrestling, they never last, but he took those 9 months off. Robbie Eagles was very vocal publicly on all the podcasts he was doing. He wanted Richie to come back from one last match. And again, we talk about Robbie being in New Japan and everything else. That all was just from the camaraderie of going back to that stuff that we just mentioned. Like, he's like, the respect and the admiration that they gained from each other during that time period for Robbie Eagles, who at the time, I don't know if he was the junior champion or if he was the junior tag champ, but he had some sort of championship in New Japan at the time that this happened, and he's publicly saying, I want a match with Richie Taylor, and he didn't even hide it. He's like, because we go back to the yard. Like, that's like the dude holding this prestigious fucking championship and just going, no, this is a thing that happened. I know this bloke. I want to wrestle him. And he publicly did it. And that, to me, that's admirable in itself. Like, I didn't do backyard wrestling per se. Like, I wrestled on trampolines and mattresses and stuff, but we didn't, do the whole YouTube and run shows and stuff. Not that, don't try this at home, kids. But like, the fact that it gets shat on so much is just, it's just mind-boggling to me, because I look at MXW, where this show's happening with Richie Taylor and Bobby Fish. They started in the backyard, and then they moved to the shed, and they started trying to get training and put it on YouTube, and now they're running these shows, and they just had Gino Gambino on one of their shows. They've had Bobby Bishop, who has arguably the best wrestling training school in the country with 3 Count, on one of their shows. Like, I could sit here and name fucking, all the names and go on a rant, but yeah, like I even though I never did it in that capacity, I love and I respect backyard wrestling. But it's the same thing with deathmatch, and it was only yesterday as we record this, it'll be last week's episode, but there was a big rant about that. And like, look, if you don't like it, you don't like it. No one's saying you fucking have to, but man, if you spent as much time like looking at the stuff that you love rather than shitting on the stuff that you don't, I feel like wrestling would be a lot better place.
My favorite remark that like I've been using a lot of recently is don't yuck somebody else's yum. Like, I don't know why.
That's the episode title. Don't yuck someone else's yum.
Because it's just one of them things where, like, okay, you could have a conversation where it's, I could sit there and tell you A, B, C, and D and the reasons why I hate them, but you could absolutely froth on A, B, C, and D. And then we get into a heated argument because you like it and I don't. But then, like, you have that moment of clarity of the whole, okay, don't yuck somebody else's yum. And it's one of the things I heard, it stuck with me, and it makes me giggle every time I say it. I don't know why. It's just fucking weird. But fun fact about that Osprey podcast, the backyard company that he refers to, like HVWA, for a while there, both Spade and myself had parts of that ring in our own backyards. So, like, we had that nostalgia of, we grew up watching that company as well. Like, we wanted to do what we did because of that company. So then for both of us to have a part of that ring, like, in our house, like, in our yards, was like, holy shit. Like, pop moments.
That's pretty cool. Like, I'd love to have something like that. But I think the best example, before I let Nova ask the next part of the question and we just keep ranting, is like the don't yuck someone jump. I'm going to steal that from now on, but no, that's definitely like the episode like the title. Like, even like, it's topical because today as we record this, he was just on Raw. Bret Hart. I have never in my life been a Bret Hart fan. However, I can look at him and he's one of the most wrestlers I've studied more than just about anyone else because he's talented, but I've just never been like a big fan of like the character and everything else, right? But I have so many friends and family that are like the biggest Bret Hart fans you want. And I'm just like, look, I don't like him, but you love him, so fucking hey, have at it, right? But there's so many people that have looked at me where I could be like, I love, Macho Man or this person, and it's like, but what about this guy and this guy and this guy? And it's like, we can have a discussion about who our guys are, but why does everything in wrestling have to be a debate? Yeah. Like, my favourite Hardy is Matt. The popular Hardy is usually Jeff. My sister, who was a very casual wrestling fan, was obsessed with anything Jeff Hardy. That was how I got her to watch anything wrestling, was just, hey, Jeff Hardy's doing dumb shit. He's jumping off fucking shit. Come watch it with me. But we always
and it's that within itself is why Jeff was the popular Hardy, because he was the one that just didn't give a fuck. Where Matt was like your wrestler's wrestler.
And like, for example, Edge and Christian, right? I would argue that Christian's the most talented of the two, but from a character standpoint, I prefer Edge, like just as a fan, right? But there's like, you will literally just be scrolling through Facebook feeds and like there'll be like fucking Jim Bob and fucking old mate will be like, well, you're a fucking idiot because he's done this, but you're a fucking dumbass because he did. I'm like, you're both saying the same thing. Like, you're both saying they've done great stuff. Just say, hey, I like this guy more because XYZ. You like this guy more because XYZ. That's great. How about we just sit down and watch some of their matches and have a fucking good time? Like,
I call that shit all the time.
Well, that was like, I saw something the other day, like it was shared on Instagram. Somebody made a remark to Ricochet, obviously now that he's gone to AEW, like they made a remark of, let me know when the highlights are out so I can watch your match. And he was just like, well, why don't you just, like, watch the show, like, and watch my match? And she was like, no, I don't want to support AEW. And it was like, then like why wait for the results? Like, if you don't want to watch the rest of the show, don't. Go on to wherever streams it, skip to my match, watch my match, and then turn it off.
Dude, I legit did that when they had RVD for the very first time, because it was just I was like, is he gonna have Pantera? Like, what are they gonna do here? Yeah, and then he was the very first segment, and I was like, this is awesome. And then the first match started, and I was like, okay. And then I just kind of fast forwarded, and I watched a bit here, and I watched a bit there, and that was it. I'm going to wait for the 2-minute YouTube clip so I can support my favorite wrestler, even though I'm probably watching it on a channel that's not AEW's to begin with. Yeah.
So, like, for me, like, everyone has this big debate, like, oh my God, WWE is so much better. AEW sucks. This, and this. I recently just watched, like, the pay-per-view just gone for AEW. That lights out unsanctioned cage match between Hangman Page and Swerve, by far one of the greatest matches I've seen recently. Not knocking Pac and Ospreay, because that was just holy fucking shit.
I want to go back and watch the full Pac Ospreay match. But again, I've seen highlights of Hangman Swerve, but that's just through like socials and that, right? And it's on AEW's page. And even I've gone, fuck, like I want to go back and I watch that match. But then I look at the rest of the card and I'm like, there's not much that I'm like, overly interested in. So, but to sit there and be like, oh, I'm just going to wait for the results and da-da-da-da, like, okay, like, you don't have to... There's a fast forward button for a reason.
Me, like if I was to go to a mate's house tomorrow and they go, oh, hey, we're going to watch this, I'll be like, cool, let me know when these two matches are happening. And then that's it. Because for me, that whole event, like, yeah, okay, it was great from bell to bell. But the two for me was Pac and Ospreay and that cage match.
I was the exact same when I saw the graphic, and I was like, I was almost going to watch the pay-per-view and have it on in the background just so I could watch those two matches, and I just didn't get there because other stuff came up. But I'm like, there's so many people that are like, I can't wait for them to go out of business. And I'm like, it's the same thing TNA's copped for over 20 years now, right? Like TNA, yeah. I'll die on the hill because TNA, even through the GFW and shit, have always been my favorite promotion since I'd like discovered them. But so many people were always like, lol, TNA. And there's even now today, people will be like, oh, wow, this is still around. And I'm like, how can you be a wrestling fan and sit there and be like, fuck this company. Like, I don't like AEW's regular programming or their product, but there is so many talented people there that I follow on socials and I buy their t-shirts. Like Ricochet, for example, right? You brought him up. The t-shirt that he got, his first AEW t-shirt, when I have the money, I'm probably going to buy that and support that, despite the fact that I don't watch it every week because I want to support him. Whereas just that backhand thing of, oh yeah, I'll watch the 4-minute highlights on YouTube. And I'm like, if you're watching it on AEW's YouTube channel, that's still a little bit better. But half the time they're watching like secondhand shit like on someone else's fucking feed and whatever else anyway. Like
somebody else is sharing their shit.
But that's my TED Talk for the day. Like what you like. Fucking just ignore what you don't. Like, I think, don't yuck someone else's yum. Like, that's...
Don't yuck someone's yum.
I think, would you like to jump into the next question, Nova, before we just start fucking...
Alrighty, what is the next question? Here we go. What is your favourite match of all time? Both that you've had personally and that you've seen. And when I say when you've seen, like, it can be live, it can be, like, on TV.
It can be both.
It can be both.
Fuck.
And as always, you can give us, like, a handful if you can't pick just one. Yeah. Like, it's not a gun to your head fucking...
Like right now, my all-time favourite match that I've had, originally I wasn't even meant to wrestle this person. Like, it was myself versus Zero in NCPW. Originally it was meant to be, I believe it was meant to be me and Benny the Back Rower. And then it was meant to be Spade versus Zero. But I reached out and was like, no, like, fuck you. Like, I haven't wrestled Zero yet. Like, this is the one guy that, like, even at Suplex, like, he was the one guy that I wanted to work. And it wasn't due to the fact of, like, trying to pull rank, so to speak, because I've been, like, there the longest. It was just he reminded me of, like, me when I was younger that just didn't give a shit, wanted to go do this, wanted to go do that. And I'm like, just let me work Zero. And in my head, that for me stands out the most for me, not only for the fact that like that he went over, but it was just, I think that's the best match that I've put on in quite some time.
Okay.
I'm just sitting here going through some stuff to see if I can find anything else that stands out.
I do get that though, because I've only done one NCPW show, and my opponent pulled out for whatever reason. I can't even fucking remember, right? And they were basically just like, fuck, like, what do we do? And I basically was like, I shot my shot, and it's not the greatest match ever, but I wanted to work Birdman just for the simple fact of I could say I work Birdman, because, you know, Birdman's cooked and we love it. But I was just like, hey, man, like, I just said to the boys, I'm like, I was a fucking rookie, but I was just basically like, hey, man, like, can we just make this one a triple threat and jump in? And he's like, hey, look, I'll ask him. And Birdman and Reese Razell said yes, and it was like, cool. Like, it's just shoot your shot kind of thing. Like, I don't think that kind of stuff I don't think is politicking. It's when you're like, fucking let me wrestle this person, or I want to be champion, and da-da-da, and it's like, no, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, or it's like, I'm not wrestling unless I wrestle blah.
I'm gonna pack my bag if I don't get to wrestle this person, but I have to go over. Like, no, like that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
But like, you've just kind of gone, hey guys, like, can we change this? Like, I don't think there's any harm in that. Like, we all have ideas. We all have the right to ideas. The promoter has the right to refuse our ideas, but at least to have the option there to be like, hey man, like, can I, do ABC?
And then shit, matches live. The one like at the very current moment that stands out the most is top tier tag team up in Queensland versus the Pereira. Like, that happened at World Series.
Yes, the most recent one, yes.
Like, holy fuck. Like, everybody sleeps on the Queensland talent, but I think top tier could be, like, without tooting the TMDK horn, but, like, they are up there. Like, they are fucking talented.
Yeah, honestly, I'd put them on that level, because they did the Aussie Showcase, down here in Wagga. And it's just, I was talking to the Pereira about that because, you know, they were on the show as well. And they made the joke of, oh, yeah, you're all of like 30 people that showed up to that because it was a long weekend of wrestling, which it was. But I was like, man, like that, like they should have had so many more people than they did. So I'm glad that World Series gave them that platform to kind of run it back and do their thing, man, because like they're supremely talented.
It slapped. Like it was by far up there. Another match, once again, provided by World Series, was a couple years ago. It was Riddle versus Flex.
Yes, dude, we have talked about this match on the pod in so many episodes. They broke the ring.
Like, what popped me the most, it wasn't anything to do with the match. It was what happened after the match that popped me the most.
I think we've got our song of the week now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hit me, baby, one more time.
So I have actual footage of that. Like I filmed Marty singing that. Like and like I like every now and then like I'll reach out to talent to be like, hey, like what are the chances of you ever working Australia? Blah 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 blah. I ended up making, like, as you've seen, like that Marty graphic. And I sent it to him, and he responded, and I was like, "Holy fucking shit!"
He is really good with his fan interaction. Honestly, he responds on his personal, and then obviously he's got his own podcast as well, the Chillin' with the Villain, which both him and his assistant run. But 9 out of 10 times it is him, and he fucking like he'll reach out and comment, and like he's actually like private messaged me a few times, like when I've shared stuff, just saying, "Hey, thanks for sharing." And like I didn't even tag him, but I was like, "Oh my god, that's fine. No worries, Mr. Villain."
It's like, thank you, sir. But it was like I even sent him the video, and he goes, "Man, like, thank you." And I'm just like, "Bro, like, this popped me. Like, there is no way in fuck I wasn't filming this."
And like I've ranted about it actually in the episode I did with Curtain Jerker Designs, Derek from the US, who was our cheap plug. That was our first ever international guest. And we talked about it because he knows Marty, and it's just like he's kind of been fucked. At the end of the day, like, without mentioning other names, but the amount of people that are still in the business that have, been abusers and shit, and he's basically been blackballed because, someone lied about their age at the end of the day. Like, it's a gross situation, but it pisses me off to no end, and that's why every time World Series put stuff, I'm always like, we want Marty, but I'm just glad that even if we don't get Marty, which I hope we do, they've started showing him in footage and photos and stuff. And, because when they obviously stripped him of the title, they almost gave him the 2015 Hulk Hogan treatment where they just acted like he didn't exist. So I'm glad that we've gotten to a point where WSW have started to kind of, sneak him in there every now and again. Because I remember saying to my mate before that event, just going, because it was right at the time they were doing BTE, and I was like, do you reckon we'll get Marty karaoke? And then the fucking wrestling gods, the ring broke. We needed 5 minutes while they fixed the ropes, and Marty's run out wearing Matt Riddle's slides, by the way. So he's obviously just grabbed like the first pair of shoes that he's found, which is fucking hilarious in its own right. And he just starts singing Britney Spears. And I might have had 5, 6, 7, I don't know, I lost count of how many beers I had. But I was like a fat kid on Christmas. And like I looked at my mate, Tom, aka Big James, who I think it was like 1 or 2 rows back, but he was at the other end, and we kind of turned and we just managed to make eye contact, and we were like, yeah, because Marty come out with the microphone, and it was just, I go back and I watch that video just on their socials quite a lot, to be honest, when it pops up in the memories. Like, man, it's one of those things where like, what was one of your favorite memories? And it's like, oh, we've seen all these matches, but this little 5-second thing that shouldn't have happened, and it's awesome to look at.
Like this little random thing that happened in Sydney. Okay, I need to think of some more matches. Obviously anything beer money, like in TNA, because they were my guy.
They're always my go-to when people are like, I'm sick of these thrown together tag teams, and it's like, motherfucker.
Yeah, it's like beer money was thrown together on a whim, and holy shit, did they make that work.
I've actually got like the best of beer money fucking DVD, and the funny thing is, it's not even the best of beer money. There's like 5 matches on there, which are great. But there should have been so many more.
Actually, another one that stands out to me the most is the TNA World Title match between Storm and Rude.
That whole feud was...
Yeah. Everything they did together was just amazing.
the cage match where Storm hit the super kick and Rude literally just falls out of the cage to retain the title.
Yeah.
Like, that is the most... so good. Like, honestly, we did a Mount Rushmore episode, and like, I know it's I guess recent-ish, it's fucking 15 years ago now, if give or take, but I'm like, I honestly, that Rude, when he originally smashes that beer bottle on Storm, to me, that is the greatest heel turn in professional wrestling history. Like, it's up there with the barbershop, in my opinion. Like, that was just, it was so shocking, and no one saw it coming, and led to Bobby Roode becoming the then longest reigning TNA champion and basically just completely reinventing himself as a performer. Like, that was fucking... It was such good shit, pal. Good shit, pal.
That was good TV.
It was fucking... just an amazing feud. Like, the Texas Death Match, everything else, and then them inevitably, like, almost doing a Mega Powers thing when they reformed, because it was just out of necessity of... I know it's been a couple of years, but I still don't trust you. And Bobby Roode almost doing like a Seth Rollins thing with Dean Ambrose.
Yeah.
Of, hey, look, I know I turned on you, but I really need you, buddy.
Yeah, it's like I could really use your help.
It was a fucking just phenomenal.
Yeah,
series.
at the moment, I can't really think of anything else off the top of my head.
That's pretty fair, though.
Yeah,
You gave us a fair chunk. Yeah.
What was that, sorry?
I thought it's pretty fair, though. You've gave us a fair, like, chunk of, like, a few that, like, you've seen and stuff that you've liked. Oh, it was
Yeah.
good.
Seeing
yeah,
that
like,
common thread with some of the names, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie though, like out of the three of them that I did mention, I personally think Top Tier versus Pereira shit everything else out of the bed. Like even more than the Select Riddle, and that shit was fucking amazing.
I'm like top tier, like, and I know Mitch Ryder specifically. I think he's done a tour of the US and a tour of Japan now. I think he's actually going back to one of the two very soon. But like, I can see Top Tier being signed eventually. Yeah. But we actually have a conversation. Like, me and Nova talk quite often, and we've mentioned on this podcast that the fact that the Pereira haven't already been signed,
fuck oath,
boggles my mind, because I could see them in TNA, I could see them in WWE, I could see them fucking AEW ring. Like, I don't give a fuck where they go, New Japan. Those dudes need to make a fuck ton of money, and that's just the bottom line wherever they go. And it comes down to support them.
I give it a year or two and they'll be signed.
And the fact that, like, again, random tag teams, OPW threw fucking Gangrel and Edward Dust together, which is awesome. But the fact that the Pereira can say that they've just randomly wrestled Gangrel.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking sick.
Like, someone that looked at that, like, that's cool.
Like, how's that for a flex? Oh, what'd you do on the weekend? Oh, just wrestled Gangrel.
One of the most famous wrestlers from the Attitude Era. Arguably one of the greatest theme songs of all time. Like, it's fine. That's cool.
Yeah.
But,
what is the next question?
So the next question is, who is your ultimate dream opponent, and what would your dream stipulation be?
He's thinking.
Tori Wilson. Tori Wilson, Brian Panties. Let's go.
Jesus Christ.
Pink ones?
No, it's got to be all black. Like, you can't have everyone think that I wear everything pink.
Just rips off the pink tights and fucking Vercetti's just wearing like a fucking pair of granny panties.
Yeah, with a photo of Tori's face on my crotch.
Jesus
fuck. Kind of want to order one now just for shits and giggles. Okay. The one guy that I really, really, really wanted to work, like, in the Australian scene and never got to was Slade Mercer.
Oh, I love Slade.
Just for the sheer fact of, like, we spent quite some time in the HBW locker room together. Like, he and I became really close back then. Then obviously shit hit the fan and everyone went and did their own thing, and life happened, and obviously you get separated. Yeah, wrestling happened. So like in all honesty, I would wrestle him in any stipulation. Like, it would not bother me. International wise, Eric Young.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I could honestly,
yeah,
I could
that'd
see
be
that. I
sick.
could see that.
Yeah.
But like, it wouldn't be like current Eric Young. Like, I'd want old school, like Super Eric, like
I will
the
say
original.
though, the shape that he has gotten in the last like year or two, he's in fucking
Like,
phenomenal
give me
shape.
the EY that every time ODB's pyro would go off, he would shit himself.
I missed
Like,
that.
give me that guy.
Showtime EY being scared of the fucking the fireworks with like the platinum.
The only male to win a woman's title in wrestling.
One half of the Knockouts Tag Team Champions with ODB.
Yep.
Oh, fuck yes.
So like realistically, like for me, I've never really had like everyone is meant to have one. Like, I've never really had a dream opponent because everyone that I get in there with, I'm like, let's try to make this the match of the night. Like, 90% of the time it's not going to happen, but for me, whoever I get in the ring with at that time, that's who I look forward to working to. Like, working with. I got really, really lucky. Like, my last match at Suplex was against Doggy Style, so Labrador Jeffrey and everyone's favourite, the Muzz Dog.
The Muzz Dog. Go back and listen to that episode if you haven't already. Cheap plug.
Just for the sheer fact of, like, I did my first ever suicide dive out onto Muzz, and as I'm like coming through the ropes, like, I said to him, I'm like, I need you to squeal like a girl, like, just for the sheer fact of I think it's going to be hilarious. So here I am getting ready to do this suicide dive, and just as my head goes through the ropes, I can hear him already squealing, and it's like, it's just so cool. Like,
Oh, fuck yes.
so like as much as I want to say that I have somebody, like, I genuinely don't. Like, we'll go with Slade. I want to wrestle Slade Mercer.
But perhaps before I go to the next question, do you just have like any like favorite stipulations then, if you don't have like a dream one per se?
Yeah, true.
Ultimate X.
Oh, yes. The most recent one actually was lit. It
Haven't seen the most recent one.
honestly reminded me of, the old school TNA when watching it. And the fact that they managed to squeeze the NXT crossover in there with Riley Osborne was cool because you notice a lot of the NXT people that are going to TNA now, they're, because it's TNA, they're getting to do some stuff you wouldn't necessarily see them doing on WWE TV, and it makes sense.
Yeah, because they kind of get that little bit of freedom.
But yeah, it's really cool, man. Like seeing some of the, obviously WWE's, fucking priority is safety, but seeing them kind of, I guess, get out of their comfort zone in a situation where it's relevant and makes sense for them to do so is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
But,
Probably me and Slade, Ultimate X. There we go.
Let's fucking go.
Although that motherfucker is a giant, so he'd probably just stand up and like
reaches up,
okay,
pulls it down.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I win.
As a bonus question before I go into the last official question, Johnny, you're a bit of a like myself. You're a bit of a not minor. What's the word I'm looking for? Amateur graphic designer. You as you just kind of alluded to when you're talking about Marty Skrull just a moment ago. Do you have, because like we always talk about like the aesthetics and stuff like that. Do you have a favorite wrestling logo, whether it's a wrestler or a pay-per-view or anything like that? And following on from that, what is your all-time favorite wrestling poster?
Like, you can never go wrong with like the OG NWO logo. Like, that shit just slaps.
Dude, even today, it's still selling like hotcakes.
The original WWF logo, like the scratch one, not the Legends one, like the scratch logo. Like the Attitude Era, like
Yes.
WWF logo. The original Razor Ramon logo.
Yes, that
Like where it was made out of a razor blade.
Yes, that's one of my favorites. I love that one. I'm just a razor mark in general, but yeah.
Oh, I mean, same. Then favorite poster. Like, it's basic as shit, but I'm probably going to go Mania 17, where it's just Rock and Austin.
Yes. Because, like, for me, for example, I've literally got it saved to my phone because I want to try and see if I can make almost a parody of it. But, like, the Survivor Series 02 poster, it is so basic, and it's not even, like, that good looking when you really think of it. But because it's so basic, I'm like, it just seems to pop at the same time. It's one of those, it's like a pug, right? I'm obsessed with pugs. It's so ugly that it's cute.
Is that the RVD one?
Yeah, it's just the one where it's like just the really, like, there's a sixth of them for the Elimination Chamber, and they're all in, like, the separate squares with, like, and it's literally just the one. Yeah. It's so basic, but, like, as a whole, something about it pops, and but no, I think I like the WrestleMania one because that's a very, especially for a WrestleMania poster, super basic in terms of a WrestleMania poster, but iconic at the same time. So
legit, my graphic designer teacher used to always say, "Is like keep it simple, stupid," and half the time,
so, exactly. KISS.
Because if you add too much shit, it's just too much. Just overcrowds everything and fuck shit up.
Yeah. This is why I need promoters to give me an idea of what they want, because otherwise I'm just.
You have no direction, so you're just like, fuck, let's go.
Like the most recent suplex one is outer space. I don't know why it was outer space. My brain went purple, and then I went purple, fucking aliens, and then there was fucking UFOs and shit on it. And I was like, is this too much? And Spade's like, you know what? That's actually kind of cool. Let's roll with it. And I'm like, I don't know where it came from, but.
You probably went purple because at the moment you're a Judgment Day mark. So
that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, let's be real. Mummy is always on top.
Well, I think honestly, like, but out of the three of us, Nova's probably like she is a massive Rhea mark. Very big inspiration for Nova is Rhea Ripley. I mean, everyone in general, like whether you're man or woman, very inspired by Rhea Ripley. But no, I don't know. It was just like, hey man, you got a color scheme? He was like, no. And I was like, I know his favorite color is purple, so I was kind of like trying to suck up to him. and then like the purple turned into what it turned into.
My absolute favorite thing about Spade, like I've known him since year 3. Like me and him have some stories. You could physically draw a dick on a chalkboard and go, "What do you think it is?" And he'd be like, "Man, that's fucking sick."
Honestly, though, looking at some of my old posters where he's been like, "That's epic," I'm like, that's fucking shit. But I think it comes to, obviously, the more you practice, the better you get, and we're all our own worst critic. I was like, oh, look at chapter number whatever compared to one I did, before that. And I'm like, that's fucking shit. But then I'm like, actually, no, like, it's just because it's not as cool as this one. But the last official question before we always go into the plugs, for your merch and your socials and blah, 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 I always end it on a non-wrestling question, and I try my best to tailor it to the individuals, and this is probably going to possibly lead to another rant. I don't know, but this is actually why this is why I actually threw that question in just before, because I wrote those after this question, but then I had to pop them in front of it. As an amateur graphic designer, what is your all-time favorite franchise logo, whether it's sports, fast food, etc.?
Yeah, right.
I was just trying to be like, fuck.
Just throwing it
What's something that I can ask that's not completely fucking generic? I'm like, hey man, you literally just posted a photo of an Astros jersey, and the Astros jersey has a fucking cool logo. So hey, what's your favorite fucking logo? Because you like graphic design and yada.
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, it's a St. Louis Cardinals jersey, not an Astros.
Oh, Astros, my bad. Why the fuck did I think Astros?
I have no idea. Probably because you were just talking about space.
Probably. Fuck me.
ADHD, my dude.
Yes, Cardinals, because it had the fucking little red bird on it. Jesus.
Yeah. Honestly, like I don't really have like a favorite, so to speak. Obviously, there are ones that stand out to me more than others. Like obviously, the Nike tick because I wear high tops. The Bulls bull because a lot of my basketball jerseys are Bulls.
As they should be, but that's just my opinion. Just because I am an actual Bulls fan.
Like there's just all these little things that I can look at and spot it a mile away that other people are like, how the fuck do you know what that is? And I'm like, it's just who I am.
Because like literally, like just as I was asking this question, my mind myself went to like the Air Jordan logo, right? And I was just like, It's such a simple little thing, but it's so cool that they just incorporate into thousands, literally, of fucking things at this point.
Yeah, like I don't really have like a particular like this stands out more than this, because like as you would know, being in the graphic world, you can't really have a favorite because everything just changes overnight. Like you get so used to something and then you look at it tomorrow and it's completely fucking different and you're like, oh, cool, that was a waste of time downloading all 73 versions of that. Or paying for the license for this and now it's completely fucking different, so now I've got to pay more money for this license.
Oh, I do find it funny though when people like change logos up, like the Manly Sea Eagles, yuck.
Oh, that is by far the stupidest fucking logo change I've ever seen.
But like, the reason I think it's stupid is just because it was almost for no reason. But if you look at it as it is, I don't think it's a bad looking logo.
No.
And so many people are like, this is the ugliest fucking... And I'm like, okay, I've seen a lot worse, but sure.
It's definitely grown on me, obviously, because like my old boy goes for Manly. Fucking stupid old cunt.
Shout out to High Octane. And Benny the back rower.
Terrible choice, guys. Terrible.
Funny. Like I'll send Benny a message now and be like, "Oi, Manly suck, you dickhead." But like, it's just like it's grown on me. Like when it first dropped, I was like, "This is so stupid." But then I saw the concept on jerseys, and I was like, "Okay, like this actually isn't as bad as like I want it to be." But yeah, I guess it's just one of them things where it'll happen when it happens. Do you have any random questions, Miss Nova?
Not that I can think of. I should have like wrote some down, some little extra ones.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of something because I was like, there's like we will always just randomly send each other shit, and it's nearly always wrestling related. But every now and then you'll be like, oh hey, here's this like sports thing or poker thing or whatever I've done. And you're like, this was their original logo. This is the new one. And I'm like, holy fucking Jesus, why was the first one a thing to begin with? So I'm just like, hey man, like what sticks out to you?
Just going back, the fucking Wagga Wagga logo that they got paid $30,000 to do, and it's literally looks like just a little watermark fingerprint that a child did. And it just says Wagga Wagga. Oh,
I'll have to find a photo.
You'll have to find a photo and send it to me. They got paid $30,000 for that. That was like a topic in our class, like what the actual.
But I mean, even the sign, "Welcome to the city of Wagga Wagga." Wagga Wagga. What? I'm
physically Googling it right now.
Yeah, it's literally so simplistic and stupid. Like, I get being simplistic, but at the same time, like that's absolutely
it's one of those things though where you look at it where you're like, hey, that's a cool logo, but not for that.
$30,000. Like, I was like, fuck me, I could have done a better job.
So okay. So what does the exact logo look like?
It's just like a little finger paint fucking
looking thing,
dot, like, and it's the logo for the whole town apparently.
Is it like the dark blue into the lighter blue dot with like a shitty Wagga Wagga written on the inside of it?
It could be. Hang on. I'll try and see if I can pull up a photo.
When you type it, it just comes up with the city council one with like the little bird thing on it.
That's the council one, which I actually don't mind that. I actually kind of dig.
Is it such a good logo that it's not even fucking available online? Just completely bearing the town that I live in, but
I mean, look, let's be real. If it's anything to do with what I'm currently looking at on Google Images, every logo that I'm looking at can go suck a fart.
I mean, one of these rugby ones doesn't look too bad, but most of them they literally look like they've been drawn in paint. Oh, God. We've just completely gone down a rabbit hole here on Coding.
Yeah, 100%. Well, this conversation could go from wrestling to graphics to...
Is it the green one?
No, that's not it. That's not it, no.
It's worse than that?
It's the one when you first drive into town, but I can't seem to actually find it
There's
anywhere.
also that.
I think that might actually be it.
It's like literally. I'm going to send this to Vercetti right now.
I think that's it, but I swear it has like a little bit of a lighter blue and a green tone to it.
It could be that I'm looking at it on the phone screen as well as opposed to like.
I swear that's
painted
the one.
and shit, but
because my teacher's like super.
This is great for an audio only podcast. Like, look at this, but yeah.
Everything is like the best part is I just sent you the exact same photo.
Yes, like
it's
cool.
That's
like it's cool. Okay, it's not bad, but
it literally
30
looks
grand.
like a thumbprint.
30 grand.
So that's a $30,000 logo.
Yeah. And I was like,
fuck, I wonder how much it's charging.
That's what I mean. I'm like, what
we should like do like an old like rip off the old Scratch logo, like from the WWF for Wagga Wagga.
Oh, 100% you could just graphic out the F on it and be like, add. I'll go at the end of it. You're like, look at that new font.
I just did that like for one of my created characters in 2K. Her initials are VV, so I like went and found the font, and I was like, it's literally just the WWF Scratch logo, but it's only half of the W, and then I just re-added the slash and made it pink.
Yeah, actually, I think I saw that.
I was just like, it's basic, it works, it's fine. Oh, we've gone down a rabbit hole here, but anything?
I'm going to reverse the roles and ask you a question.
Oh, sure, why not? Let's fucking go.
We're going to hit the nail on the head right here. If we're going to go back to the dream match situation, and actually this is for both of you.
Oh shit!
So dream match, both Australian talent and international talent.
See, this changes for me on a regular basis, and I actually asked Nova this when I did her episode of just be like, if you were a wrestler, but ever since she's been a ring announcer now and she's meeting more people, she's like, oh, it would be cool to wrestle her eventually and stuff. But like for me, the biggest international, even though my hero was Eddie Guerrero, right? Even if I go dead or alive, doesn't matter. The biggest one for me is AJ Styles. Never going to happen. But for some reason, as like a 13, 14-year-old kid, regardless of who it was, I think it was, again, just without the pun intended, like his style of wrestling to me was like, man, like obviously, you know, it was
because he was leaps and bounds above everybody doing what they were doing,
and
at that
especially
point.
At that point where he was doing like all the crazy corkscrews and the X Division stuff, and I was a fat kid. I was like, man, I could catch him and I could do this move and I could do that move. But number one dream opponent Australian wise was actually meant to happen, but unfortunately politics and me being an angry young man shot myself in the foot and probably never going to happen. Number one is Craven. We had the possibility of have it happening in a promotion that doesn't need to be named in Queensland, and I fucked it because I got sick of the way I was being treated. But it's a thing that happened. But he still says he wants to wrestle me when I'm cleared. Bobby Bishop's another one. When I got injured, he messaged me going, "Bro, like I actually was looking forward to working you." But honestly, it's so cliche, dude. But I literally want to wrestle everyone. Like it gets to a point where eventually I'm going to get cleared and I will be able to have some match of some sort. But I've already told ECW, ICW, even Suplex. I have Spade message me I speak to Spade every other day. But like every 2 or 3 months, he'll just randomly message me because he's bored and be like, "Is your eye healed yet? I want to beat each other up." And I'm just like, fuck, I need to get Spade in before he actually retires for the last time properly. Like, it'll be just my luck he actually retires properly and I'll fucking still be injured.
Like, I love that man to death, but he is 100% the John Farnham of Aussie wrestling.
But no,
I think this is his, like, what, 900th retirement tour? Like, no, I think him and I've retired the most combined in all of Aussie wrestling.
But, like, honestly...
Like, you know it's bad when both people that have been doing this for just a little bit of 10 plus years have retired more than Birdman.
But
like, and that's not me putting shit on Birdman because I don't want to have gifs and shit made about me.
I've been there, done that, brother. Making fucking stuff about me all because I offered to do his posters for him for a cheap fee and he wanted them for free. But anyway, it is what it is. I love Birdman. I can't wait to work with him in October. But no, I feel you. I don't want to be putting the stories and shit.
Yeah.
But
I'm like... Like, I'm too old to be a fucking rotating chicken head. Like,
no,
fuck that.
And the funny thing is, you could ask me this again tomorrow and it might change. But if I was to go top 5, Craven's one of them. Bobby Bishop would be the other one. Joel Bateman is another one. and I know that, he's a very controversial figure in his own right, but he's always done right by me. Joel is someone I would 100% love to wrestle. I have wrestled him before, but I really want a proper match with Nick Maltino because I feel like we could do some good stuff. And actually, I'll give you 6 because I really want to wrestle Jake Gibson. And there's a man by the name of Atticus Slane. He didn't last very long. He retired because of politics and bullshit as well. He pretty much wrestles once a year now, and he's going to be doing, the Emma Butler shows for High Octane. And High Octane's another one I'd like to scrap with, but with his health issues, that does... Honestly, James, it does worry me. I don't want to be responsible for another one of your concussions when I take your head off with the radiation kick. Because obviously I'm going over, brother. No, but Atticus Slane, I wrestled him, and it's one of my best matches, but it was a fucking COVID show. There was 10 people there. It was wrestlers' kids, wrestlers' partners. I want to wrestle him in Cowra, in front of a crowd, and I don't give a fuck. He can go over, I can go over. Dude, flip a coin, paper, scissors, roll. I don't care. But I really want to wrestle him. But honestly, even as you said, like earlier, you joked about wrestling. You're like, I want to wrestle Vercetti. I want to wrestle the whole fucking Suplex roster at this point. Like, I want to wrestle everyone. But there's just a few names before I just go on another half an hour fucking rant of all these people. But no, they're some of the core names. I think I'd say Craven, Bobby Bishop, Nick Maltino, Jay Gibson, Atticus Slane.
See, like me personally, like, sorry to cut out on Nova there, but like, I think I got really lucky in my first, I'm going to go say in my first 2 years. Like, I got really fucking lucky, like, with the names that I got to work. So, obviously, like, as I mentioned earlier, like, I debuted against Aurora, like, who was an IWA veteran and still to this day, the hardest person ever to hit me. Then I went from her to, like, so this is, like, I was green as shit. Like, I physically, like, I'll tell you a fun story maybe off air about how I got that booking. My second match ever was against Coyote. And I'm just like, sorry to use your shoot name.
Again, I'll bleep that out. It's fine.
Like, he, to this day, like, I will message him consistently, like, obviously, because when he lost his leg, like, it was so shit. And he is by far one of the nicest humans I've ever met. I
even said to him, because we did a two-part episode with him a couple of weeks ago, where we did, 2 weeks worth of episodes. And I even said to him, I'm like, man, like, did you ever consider doing like a Rumble or a Battle Royal or even anything? And he's like, no, it's, he's content, with what it is. But I'm like, fuck. Yeah. I'm like, if I make my way up that way, I'm like, I'll take a chokeslam from you. I'm like, I might be fat, but I can still jump pretty high, surprisingly. Like, fuck, just let me take the chokeslam from Coyote and I'm done. Like, that's all I need.
When I wrestled Coyote, at that point in time, I was like maybe 75 kilo, like physically just skin and bone. And at that time, Coyote was this big 6'10", 100 and whatever hell he was, dude, like monster. He hits me with a corner splash, and it was just a running one, like he didn't jump into it or anything, and you physically hear him hit the turnbuckle. Like, he's charging me, he runs through me, and you hear him hit metal. And then when he chokeslammed me, the ring didn't give. So, like, I got a couple bumps and bruises from that match, like a couple internal things.
Fuck yes.
To the point, like, I messaged him and I was like, hey, look, not to make you worried or upset, but this, and this has happened, like, from our match. I just want to let you know, like, I am all good, but I just thought that I should let you know that this has happened. Every day for, like, the next 2 weeks, he was in my messages like, hey, man, like, are you good? Like, are you good? Like, are you good?
Coyote's a fucking sweetheart, honestly.
Yeah, like, I honestly, I love that human being. Then I went from wrestling him to wrestling a guy called Dan Damage, who was a part of an IWA tag team called Nothing Personal, Just Business. In that match, I actually split my head open on a guardrail on the outside of the ring.
Oof.
And, like, blood everywhere. And not only did it make, like, me get that bigger crowd support out of it, but, like, it just made him look like a bigger asshole. Like, this is my third match in and he's busted me open and there's blood everywhere and this and everything else. Then I got to work, like, Mikey Lord and Ethan Hughes, Matt Bailey.
Shout out to Sarge. We want to get him on the podcast at some point too. Ethan Hughes.
Oh man, like not to actually, I won't say who it was, but there was a match that I wrestled for SWA, and it was my very first win, and we weren't going to tell anybody about it. It was just going to be one of them ones where like it just happened. And the guy that I wrestled, his name was Casaora. He was a masked wrestler, to the point where throughout that match, both commentators were heavily under the influence of too many waters. There is I really, really wish I still had the DVDs. I don't know where they are. I don't even know if this match is online anywhere. But throughout that entire match, they never once used the terminology of Johnny Vercetti. It was always any two words that were J and V. So whatever came to mind, that's what I was called. So there's parts throughout the match where I would say like Johnny Voluptuous. The one to this day, like this happened back in 2012, and to this day, I still remember it as clear as day because it popped the absolute shit out of me. It was Johnny Vasectomy, and like it's
Jimmy
just
Vigorous.
yeah, like physically any two words, like any two words that started with a J and a V, like throughout that entire match is what I was called, and it was just so cool. Like, and then getting to work, like I think that was still in my in my first year. I made my way to to Canberra, wrestled Mike. Mike went over, cheating prick. Did a match against B-Boy and at the time a guy by the name of Blue Oni. Like that was in 2014. Blue Oni ended up becoming Unsocial Jordan.
Oh, okay. Fuck. Yep. It's a big name.
Yeah, like
in wrestling, yeah.
Yeah, like and like I'm looking back at everything that I've done, like throughout this time. Like I went on probably give or take a 6-month program with me and Renegade, like dude from Queensland.
Shout out to the big boy. I met him in Goulburn in 2014. Him and Linksy, who are actually teaming again now as Strong 94 every now and then. Yeah.
Even now, like, so we used to have a ritual every port show before we would travel to port was Matt Bailey, Sarge, and Lynx Lewis when Lynx was living in Sydney. They would all travel up to my house on the Friday night. We'd have a fire in the backyard, get absolutely shit-faced, and then obviously make the road trip to port the next day. Like, shout out to my manly supporting father for being a driver for 90% of these shows. And it was just like one of them things where it was like we really like we cared about the show that we were going to wrestle at, but we cared more about the night before. Like, and I got really lucky in like my return to like wrestling. Like for the stepson was like I finally got to have my one-on-one match with Lynx, and like even back in the days when we were doing the port shows, we used to run this little nut spot that I thought was hilarious. And then when we finally got to work each other, like we finally did the spot, and I was like, man, this is like so much fun. Like, so like me getting to work some of these people that not only did I grew up like watching or wanting to like be around, like getting to wrestle them, like I got to have a one-on-one match with Sid Parker. Like that to me,
very big fan of Sid Parker.
Like that for me within itself is like just stupid.
I'm actually very excited for the footage of what's going to come from the next Relentless show because he's wrestling as just Aaron, and I'm very excited to see what style of match he wrestles against AXT in that match.
Wonder if he'll wear boots.
Maybe.
But it's like there's been times where like I've wrestled a match and then obviously after I finished the match going, like, why the fuck did I agree to do that? Like, there's some matches that I look back on and go, I shouldn't have said yes to this. But then there's other matches that I look back at and go, like, I'm super proud of that. Like, I did a little 3-way match. Wasn't a 3-way, but it was like a 3-part match on the one show against a guy called Curtis James from NCPW.
Yes, yep.
Originally, it was a singles match for both titles, because at the time I was the Slam Factory champion. He was the main champion, like the heavyweight. He was the heavyweight guy. He hit me with a low blow, pinned me 1, 2, 3. Crowd is honestly dead silent. Like, there was no reaction. There was no boos. There was you could have physically heard a pin drop. Like, because at the time, like, I was, like, at that time the most over guy on their show. Like, not to toot my own horn or anything, but, like, that's just how it was back then. It was weird being a face. I'm so much better at a heel. And then, like, the general manager came out, restarted the match. I've schoolboyed him 1, 2, 3. Crowd fucking erupts. So now I'm double champ, and I'm like, okay, like, cool, like, this is huge. Then at the time, because he was a part owner still of the company, he then stripped me of the heavyweight title, gave himself the belt back, and then it became a tag match of me and Sarge, so Ethan Hughes, versus Chad War and Curtis James. So, like, they're like brother tag team, whatever it was called back then.
Back in the day when
it was like that little throwback to the IWA days of singing Cowboys.
Yeah, Woe James, like, very original, just mashing the two names together.
Yeah, War James, that was it. Like that little 3-bit thing there that I did with those boys, like, it went from nothing to something within the blink of an eye. The one guy who I would get paid to travel up and down the coast to wrestle was, like, me and Spade. Like, the amount of times that I wrestled Spade throughout my X amount of years is nuts. And working with Spade is great because we physically we'll plan the ending, and that's it. Everything else in the middle at the start, that's just us. There's no what do you want to do? What do you want this here? Do you want this here? Like, it's physically, we just go out and beat the absolute piss out of each other. We know the finish. That's it.
See, that's one thing that shits me off, like, in wrestling, because I'm like, I'm never going to sit here and be like, I'm a veteran or this or that, but I've always been great at reading a room, and the amount of young guys that are like fucking like 3 pages of notes where I'm just like, dude, no, like, you know each other's movesets, like, have a finish. I'm like, maybe have stuff in the middle if you want, but those matches where you just kind of go in and for, 5-10 minutes you just kind of feel it out sort of thing, I feel like those are always the best matches.
Yeah. But it's like you look back at everything that I've done, and it's just like, I wrestled Labrador Jeffrey's first, like, crowd show, and I put him over. I'm like I could have complained to the booker at the time and been like, I'm not putting this kid over. Like, where's the long-term story in that? Like, no, it doesn't work like that. But, like, there were certain parts even in that match where, like, I said to him, I was like, if you get me in the corner for chops, like, you need to make sure you hit me, because when the roles are reversed, I'm not going to pull anything. Like, I'm going to hit you how I should hit you. Like, not to hurt him, but, like...
Yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah. So there's a part in the match, he puts me in the corner, hits me with a forearm, and then goes to chop me. And he gets halfway through his chop, and he kind of flinches. And, like, he still connects, but I'm just like, oh, fuck's sake. I'm like, here we go. So I get to the part where, like, it's time for me to hit him. He kicks out of my finish, 1, 2. I get in the ref's face. The ref's like, righto, he's getting up now. I turn around, I pick him up, and I fucking level him, hey, as hard as I can, like, in his, like, in the soft part of your neck.
Oh, shit.
Like, to the point his neck, when we got backstage, was as red as my St. Louis hat. Like, it was nuts. And he just goes, I understand what you mean now. And I was like, I was like, did it hurt? He goes, at the time, yeah, for maybe about 3 seconds, and then the pain went away, and I was like, that's exactly what you need to do. Like, hit me hard, but like, hit me safe.
But I thought of, like, while you were talking about like Aurora and stuff, that made me think of Flame, which then made me think of Saturday Night / Tristan Slade, and I realized. I did not mention him on my list, and I should have. He's number one. Sorry, Craven, you're being bumped down to number two. Because Mr. Saturday Night was the first guy when I said I wanted to be a wrestler and I was looking around. He went out of his way to be like, hey, dude, come down and da-da-da-da. And he welcomed me into the business and taught me the basics. And, you know, he had me doing fish bumps for fucking like an hour and a half when I first came down, man. But like he was awesome, and like Tristan Slade is definitely someone that, you know, in a perfect world, if I ever get cleared and he decides to come back to Canberra or I make my way up to Sydney / Newcastle, Tristan Slade is number one. I literally, like, as you were talking, like, had that thought, and I was like, how the fuck did I forget Mr. Saturday Night? I feel absolutely terrible.
So, do you want to know a fun fact?
Oh.
All right, let's see if I can find this. The last time Johnny Vercetti appeared in Canberra, where are we? Shit, I think it might be that. Yeah, it was. So the last time Johnny Vercetti appeared in Canberra was the 23rd of the 6th, 2012. ICW Chill Factor.
Yeah.
Where I lost to Mike Kelly.
Mike Kelly!
Prior to that was the 21st of the 4th, 2012 for the tag Warfare, where myself and JJ Malone lost to the Shinju Soldiers. So yeah, there we go. I have a feeling that I've wrestled in Canberra more than twice.
It's just like, what the fuck?
But yeah, it's just one of them things where I'm looking at everything now and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I went there more than twice. But like, as I said to you prior to streaming, I was like, I don't have any recollection of half of these matches. Like the one that I said before, like I apparently wrestled the man Lee Moreau.
It's just like, how the fuck do I remember that? Was it a concussion or what? Like,
yeah, it's like and there's other matches here that like I look at and go, okay, I remember that match. I remember that match. I don't remember that match. I remember that match. The one match I really wish I did remember, even though like the footage is out, is the debut of Wasted Grade, which was me and Spade.
Yes.
We wrestled Bubbles and DR for the tag titles at the 4th year anniversary show.
That was before one of
I get concussed halfway through that match.
One of Spade's 1,000 retirements.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to do this tag thing with Vercetti and I'm going to start traveling again. And yeah, I'm done, brother.
Yeah, and then neither one of us are like, yeah, let's travel. So like, I get concussed halfway through that match, and unless I go back and watch the whole match, like I don't remember it at all. And it sucks because like being the debut of like our team and what we wanted to do, like I have no memory of it. And it sucks.
See, I wrestled Backman, and it was just like a little pop-up fucking festival show. And unfortunately, my head was bounced off the canvas twice, and it was a fucking terrible match. And it's one of those ones where I don't even remember most of it, but then there's part of me where I'm like, I remember bits and pieces. I'm like, I'm glad there's no footage, because like he dropped me on my head. It wasn't intentional or anything. It's wrestling. Shit happens, right? And at some point, he dislocated his finger when I threw him into the buckle. He put his hand up too soon, and his fucking hand finger popped out, hitting the steel and shit. Like, it was just catastrophic. And I'm like, I can remember like tiny bits and pieces, but I'm just like, I'm glad that footage doesn't exist and will hopefully never exist, because like it was god awful. But I'm like, that was my first concussion.
So from what I'm hearing, it was just a shit show on top of a shit show.
Yeah, it was just like I got bounced off my head. Like as I said, definitely not. Like it wasn't intentional. I'm not saying he fucked me up or anything. It was just wrestling happens, and then he fucking dislocated his finger and shit. And like I couldn't even tell you like what the finish of the match was. I just know that it was a shit match. He went over. Da 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 da. I'm glad the footage doesn't exist.
Yeah, like I've got matches like that where I look back at them and go, "This is fucking stupid."
But what about you,
Like, here we go. I've just found my statistics overview of the one known as Johnny Vercetti. So apparently I've wrestled 66 matches, and I've only won 19 of them.
But even you just saying 66, I'm like, I swear to God, I've heard more people say that they've wrestled you at various parts.
Yeah,
so
like,
I don't fucking.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that it was 66. Like I definitely think that there is more.
They're the only ones that are canon apparently within the world of pro wrestling.
Yeah, it's like kids these days that are wrestling, like they're really smart by like writing everything down of who they've worked, if they won, if they didn't win. Like I really wish that there was the smarts that we had now back then to be able to document all that, because it's like I'd be intrigued to go back and actually look at everything, but yeah, fuck no.
One of those things, it's like, you could have put pen to paper, but it's like, man, after fucking, 15 odd years, that piece of paper is going to be all kinds of fucked up.
Oh, 100%.
But what about you, Nova Lee? Like, I see you scrolling there, like, looking through people's...
I literally have, like, 10 Australian and 10 international.
Let's get the answer here to Nova Lee's... or the Vercetti's question to Nova Lee, and then we'll go into the plugs and wrap this up.
So it's kind of not really in, like, any order. It's kind of pretty random. But for Aussie wrestlers, it'd be Vixen, Jessica Troy, Charlie Evans, Layla Devine, Savannah Rowe, Delta, Tali, Erica Reed, Kyla Knight, and Freya Fury.
I thought you were going to mention Nova Nichols, to be honest.
Nova Nichols is up
Nova
there as well,
Nichols,
but I was trying to keep it to 10.
The custody of Nova ladder match. Winner gets
So
to keep the name.
There are honestly, like, there are names on that shocked me to hear, and there was one name not on that list that I'm shocked isn't on that list.
All right, who?
And she is the only person from Australia to graduate from the Black and Brave Academy. Cheap plug, Seth Rollins. And that is Tali.
No, she said Tali.
I did say Tali. Yeah, Tali's on there. She's after Delta.
Okay, yeah. I didn't hear Tali, so that is on me for being a typical male and only half listening.
Yeah, after Delta, it was Tali.
Yes, Tali. Okay.
Well, technically, can you classify Delta anymore? Because now she's an international.
Technically, but she's originally Aussie.
It is still pending, though. It hasn't been officially announced where she is.
I've made Rhea international because she's lived out of Australia for fucking X amount of years now.
Yes, like like, I think as they're signed, like even Robbie, I think Robbie can kind of be considered because he's still here regularly. SDL potentially, but Shazza and them, I think they're elsewhere now. Like,
yeah.
So like the difference with Robbie signed and all that is obviously you've got a little bit more freedom at New Japan. But
even with AEW though, like Buddy has come back to Melbourne a few times, but I'd still very much consider him an international because it was a very special, not a once-off because he did 2 shows, but it was a very special thing of he showed up and it was completely, a complete surprise, like to everyone that had tickets to that show, fuck you. But like... But no, I think I can see where you're going.
Yeah.
Before we go into the plugs, like Vercetti, like where do you just think? Because we've talked about this on the pod, but there's lots of rumors where Delta is or isn't going. Where do you think she's going, or where do you think would be her best fit? Because for me, and it could be because I'm biased, I still really want to see her in the Knockouts division. But again, if she goes to NXT, they've got the fucking working relationship now, so. Why not? I just want to see the rematch because her and Jordan Grace in Ballarat was fucking awesome.
So I will be straight up honest. I never got the chance to see Delta work. funnily enough, she was actually one of the main reasons that I decided to go to the Brisbane World Series.
Yes.
Because originally she was booked for that. Don't know what happened, whether there was something that went wrong behind the scenes or if she was already on a plane.
Just a matter of the current subject to change, just kind of.
Yeah, and so, but like, it wasn't even announced that she wasn't there. Like, it was just the match played, like the whole card played out, and there was no Delta, and I'm sitting there going like,
it's like someone's missing. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm like the one person that I wanted to see work was obviously Delta, and it didn't happen. So I was sitting there kind of like a little bit ticked off, but at the same time, like I got to rub up with Dana Brooke, and damn,
Jesus Christ.
That was a time and a half.
Shout out Ash. Honestly, when we met her, was fucking.
She went and liked all my photos. I'm like, yes.
And she's one of the handful that actually signed my shit for free, so I appreciated that.
So the shirt that I was wearing when I met her was obviously like my Winnie the Pooh shirt that says "Fuck bitches, get honey." The moment she saw it, she was like, "That is the greatest shirt I've ever seen," and I was like, "Well, you can touch it whenever you like." Like, just it was just comical shit, like, and it was like she's just so great. Like, she is such a great human.
No, she was absolutely lovely, and like, like the pre-show meet and greet, she was one of the very few people that actually signed my tens for free, which was awesome because you spend a lot of time making those fucking things. But at intermission, once her line had kind of went over to her, and she was just like I don't have money, but I just wanted to say hello and like thank you. And then like she literally she engaged the conversation.
At least 15 minutes.
We talked
like,
I was gonna say 10 minutes, but it may have actually been longer. Like we were just talking about random shit and like the difference in culture between like Australia and America, and like the weather. She's like she forgot that it was technically colder, and she's like I had to go out and buy a new jacket and. Like, it was just, like, random shit, but it was, like, I appreciated that it was just small talk, and she wasn't, like, rushing. She was just chilling, like...
So, I have a really, really close friendship. Like, we don't message each other. Like, I really wish we did, because that'd be pretty cool. Every time they're out here for the World Series tours, like, I'm really, really close with Hammerstone and Brian Cage. Due to the fact of the very first time I met them, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to give you money. I want you to stall me."
Yes, the video she sent me where they held you up for the suplexes.
Yeah,
yes,
like it was great. So like, because that's something different that obviously they don't do every single day, like that stands out to them. So like when I walked into Brisbane, like for the meet and greet, and Cage saw me, like just the look on his face was like, "Holy shit!" Like. You're in Sydney, like, what are you doing here? And I'm just like, wanted to change it up. To the point, like, he asked me personally if I, like, Cage was like, are you going to be in Sydney? Like, if so, like, we'll catch up, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. And I'm like, hey, look, unfortunately, like, I'm back at work by then. But, like, yeah, like, the next time you're out, like, we can definitely, like, catch up and do stuff. Like, so for them to be even, like, to step aside from their personas of Brian Cage and Hammerstone, like, and actually treat you like a human. Like, it makes going back to the World Series shows that little bit more special for me because of that friendship with those guys.
Definitely. And I also, just before we quickly throw it back to Nova to wrap it up, I just want to say, I appreciate, by the way, when I went up to Cage with the 8x10 that I made for him, he's like, I've been waiting the whole tour to see this. He's like, a guy showed me this in Brisbane. And I was like, I know exactly who that was. So I appreciate you when you
he called you out.
I appreciate you, one, showing like Cage, like when you gave him the one you did, going, oh yeah, my mate made this. But I appreciate that. Two, I just love that Cage remembered it. He's like, I've been waiting all tour to see this. And I was just like, yes.
Like, when I showed him the one that I did, I was like, look, don't get me wrong, like mine's cool and shit. I was like, but the one that my mate made fucking shits mine out of the water. And he was like, what? And I'm like, oh, fuck, spoiler. So then I showed him and he goes, holy shit. And I'm like, yeah, this is what we do for the people that we actually give a shit about that, like, come out here.
It was so, like,
all the ones that I made.
Cardona was like, man, this is sick. And he, like, made sure to put it in his bag so he was safe. And I was like, can you sign my copy? And he's like, that's $50. And I was like, motherfucker. Like, I know you got to make money, but I spent hours making that sumbitch. And Steph was the same. Like, she was like, oh my God, like, because when I posted it online, she messaged me and she's like, that's cool. And she's like, I've been waiting for this, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, can you sign mine? And it was the same thing. Oh, I think she was charging 30. I'm like, motherfucker. Yeah. Whereas TJ and Ash and Elijah and, Jack Cartwheel, they were just
TJ
like,
nothing.
They were just like, this is your shit. I'm gonna sign it. And like, say I have the Manic action figure. TJ went, this is your stuff that you've brought. Why would I charge you to sign your stuff? And it was the same with the fucking Zack Ryder Funko. He's like, yeah, $50. And I'm like, okay.
And then you brought me in and I got to talk to TJP and shit.
So
and
next time I'm probably not even going to do VIP meet and greet. I'm just going to go in at intermission and give him the shit that I made.
I got really lucky. So I made, like, as I sent you, I made a heap of different ones for Cardona. I think I got 3 of them printed out. Like, because obviously the way that it was going to go was obviously one for Cardona to keep, one for Coleman to get signed, and then one just for the sheer
I did
fact
the same where it was like one for me, one for them, and then it was like a spare for either my brother or one of my mates. Which I feel bad because Hammerstone signed 2 of them, and somehow he ended up with the one that was still signed. I didn't realize until the one. So I paid him to sign it. So yeah, basically I paid him to sign it, and now he still has the signed version. At the end of the night, I went to give my brother his copy, and I was like, "This isn't signed."
Shit.
And I was like, "Do you still want it?" And he's like, "No, it's cool. I'll still keep it." I was like, "Fuck."
It was like with with all the ones that we had, because like the same thing like with Cardona, he was like, "Yeah, $50, $50, $50." I was like I looked at Colin and I was like, "Mate, like I love you, but I'm not going to pay $50."
I paid like $90, like once I printed them all out, right? Because I did like I think 9 or 10 wrestlers, and then it was just like, fuck.
I like when I got the price for mine, I was like, ugh.
Yeah, because literally I was talking to a lady when you guys went in. And she'd just come out and she's like, "Oh, did you not go and do meet and greet?" I said, "Nah, I couldn't afford for me to do it as well." Same. And she's like, "It fucking sucked. You paid that much and then you had to pay for everyone." It
Nemeth looked like he was gonna sign it, but then his handlers were kind of like, "It's $50 for an autograph," and I was like, "Fuck you."
Well, yeah, but like as I was saying about Cardona, like by the time that like we did everything and Colin got to meet everyone and like he got the signatures of like who he wanted to meet. Like, I think he spent the most time and most of my money with the Pereira. Like, he got a Pereira shirt. He got one of the Pereira chains. Like, it was great. Like watching him having that little scandal.
My brother got a T-shirt from them. I think, what did he pay? Like, was it $30 or $40 for the shirt?
They didn't have any shirts in his size, but he
He got an 8x10 where it was just a printed photo of them. And then I didn't know they were doing meet and greet, which stupid me forgetting that they were World Series champs for some reason. So that's why I did the Lena Cross ones and the Shigehiro ones just for shits and gigs afterwards. And they come back, Shigehiro is the Aussie champion, so I'll probably print that out and give it to him. But I said to the Pereira, I was like, I felt terrible because I didn't know that you and Lena were going to, like, the Aussie talent basically were going to do meet and greet. And they were like, hey, like, we've seen some of your work, like, could you make us one? And that's why I made it for them. And I'm like, I'll probably get those printed as well because signed. But we spoke to them for, again, 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, and that was before my brother even bought anything because it was after the show and they were just up for a chat and it was awesome. I'm like, that's the shit that I love more than, honestly, the shows.
We ended up gifting, like, all of the leftover 8x10s that we printed out, like, to the wrestlers and was like, hey, like, if you want to sell it at the next show, like, feel free. Like, these are now yours to do pretty much whatever you want with them. Like, and they were all great for it. Like, Cartwheel now follows me on Instagram.
Well, he was one that said, man, I kind of want to get this printed. And I was like, please? I'm like, dude, you don't even have to fucking pay me. Just tag my Instagram page at Crossfire Graphics and TJP, who I actually, again, cheap plug. I just did a YouTube video with him on my mate's YouTube channel where I actually got permission off him to use the detonation kicker when I eventually get fucking cleared. But he has the 8x10 that I gave him in a photo frame on his mantelpiece. That is fucking mind-boggling.
Like, I'm going to show my wife because the mask she helped me design
his
the
wife
fucking
helped
background.
him design the Aswang, and as you saw, I've got like kind of like it's just peeking in through the concrete, and Like the fact that he's just got that like in a frame because him and his wife loved it that much. I was just like, it's like that's all I need. Like,
that makes me wonder where mine is now. Holy shit!
It's just like, crazy to think that it could just be sitting like they've got these things, and that's awesome.
So we gave Cardona like all of the ones that were left over for him, and was like, hey, look, feel free to do whatever you want with them. Like I made these for him because he wanted to gift them to you guys because like obviously we're wrestling fans before we're performers. Like we will always be fans.
And it's a good way to meet them too because I'm like, I didn't have money for merch because of medical bills. So I was like, I literally afterpaid the price to print the things out. So I was like, look, I just wanted to give you this so I could say hello and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And then it was like, on the off chance, would you sign these ones? And as I said, most of them did, but there was the couple that were like, Cage was cool though. He gave me a discount, as did Hammerstone. And as I said, I can't believe we got fucking back. Like, well, actually, it wasn't even the night of. It was the night after when we were back. We were back home, and I gave my brother his, and I was like, "This is insane." And Teek's like, "He definitely signed too." And I was like, "Yes," or Nova, whatever you want to call her. She's still Teek to me, Mrs Crossfire. I was like, "He definitely signed too." And we're like, "So he has the signed copy that I paid him for." And I was like, "Oh well, it's a donation."
So Colin got very, very lucky with Cardona. Because we gifted him all the leftover 8x10s of himself, he actually turned around and gave Colin like the hat that he was wearing.
That's cool.
And was like, you can have this for giving me these.
So now that's
and
cool.
I kind of looked at it. I was like, what are you saying? He goes like, thank you. And I'm like, in my head, I was like,
so the bitch, I wanted the damn hat.
I was still just like, I'm not paying you. But then I was like, I even said to him, I was like, yeah, I'm the one that tagged you on like Instagram and shit asking you for a chop off. And he goes, why would I let you hit me? And I'm like,
you're just a fucking mark. I don't trust you.
I'm like, why the fuck not? I'm like, if you chop me and I no sell you, like, fuck yeah, like this is going to be nuts. And then like we got talking a bit and I was like, yeah, like this is pretty shitty though, because like the two shows that I've been to for World Series, like I've wanted to see him wrestle, and both times he's been out injured, and I'm just like, yeah, you fucking knobhead.
Yeah, like that was my first time seeing him live ever, and the fact that he was injured sucked. But I was just glad that I got to say, get at him, because like I was a Zack Ryder fan since like literally when they were the Major Brothers. I enjoyed the Major Brothers as a tag team, and then they did like when they were the Edgeheads. I've followed him that whole fucking time. So just being able to say like, look, hey, love your shit. Like the fact that he didn't sign it was deflating, but at the same time, I get it. Because when Elijah signed it, his handler was like, are you going to make him pay for that?
Yeah,
he was kind of pushy. I'm not going to name him because he is an Aussie wrestler and I'm a fan, but he was
very
a bit
serious.
He was. I think he just took his job seriously.
I'm
and you know
scared
what? More power to him. He took his job seriously, but he was just like, he has to pay for that. He has to pay for that. And Elijah's like, I don't give a fuck. He made it. Like, it was just so nonchalant. And then obviously TJP didn't even have a handler in Sydney, which was even crazier.
Yeah,
he's probably like, I don't fucking need one. It's my shit. Leave me alone.
Well, like, and that was the thing. So I didn't realize with the venue that we were at for World Series that where they were for the meet and greet was where they were going to be like during intermission, during post show.
Yeah. So like I'm just going to do that from now on and just be like, hey, look, I made you this. Like if there's no merch left to buy, even if I do have the money, then shit happens. Let me just give you this. And because usually like we go to Sydney's 9 out of 10 times Sydney's the last show anyway. I remember when John Morrison came out, he had nothing left. And he's like he's my third favorite wrestler of all time. He's my favorite wrestler that's still alive because obviously Eddie and Macho are gone. And the fact that he had no merch broke my fucking heart because I was just like, he had the Aussie exclusives and he had, a few little things, and I was just like, no.
So that was one of the main reasons, and like another reason I went to Brisbane, because Brisbane was the first show. So I was like, fuck yes, like I'm finally gonna get merch, finally gonna do this, and this. Out of the entire money that I took up there, I spent $50 on myself. The rest of it was like on the young fella, and by far it was the best $50 I've ever spent ever on myself, because I had Ash by Elegance press up against me. Oh
my god! But I think we should probably like let Nova wrap this out. Otherwise, we're just gonna keep ranting.
Yeah.
But I'm
I still have my international people to tell you too.
Oh, you have an international dream opponent.
Yeah, I have 10.
Okay, hit me with your 10, and then
it was really hard to pair it
hit me
back
with your 10, and then wrap it up so Vercetti
obviously,
can get all these plugs and shit in.
Obviously, Rhea.
Obviously.
Yep.
Jessica Havoc.
Ooh.
Rosemary.
Okay.
Soraya.
Can we do me and you
Or
versus
Soraya, however you
Rosemary
say
and
it.
Crazy Steve? Legally blind person versus
It
legally
actually
blind
would be
person?
pretty fucking sick. Yeah, like Paige, Soraya, however you want to like go about it.
Yeah.
Sarah Logan, because I actually
Ooh.
fucking love her.
Yes.
Ruby Soho, Mickey James, Trish Adora, Trish Stratus, and Becky Lynch.
Couple of like indie names in there though, / TNA names, which
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting Jessica Havoc threw me, and I was like, ooh.
dude, every
Yeah.
time World Series,
She's a big girl. I'm a
every
big
single
girl. It'd be
time,
fucking
every
sick.
single time World Series goes, who would you like to see? I'm like, give me Sami Callihan, and while you're at it, just bring his fucking missus too, and they won't do it. Give me Jessica
Dude.
Havoc and Sami Callihan. That's all I ask.
Did you see the World Series announcement today?
Yes, and that's why I said I don't know if I'm going to be able to go because just medical appointments and that, but that could honestly
Yeah,
because
I
Nova
really
is
want to
a
meet
massive
fucking
wrestling
Danhausen
fan.
so bad.
So that's 2 days after our 6th anniversary, so like it's not a milestone, but it's still an anniversary. I'd love to take Nova for anniversary and actually get it to meet, like, because like I'm already thinking of ideas for the 8x10 for Danhausen, because that's one of those ones where. And you're probably the same. Like, that's one of those ones where you can be stupid and you can be out there and it's going to make all the sense in the fucking world.
Like, and that's the thing. So, like, one of my really close friends is, like, a massive Danhausen mark, like, without fail. Like, her whole phone case is legitimately Danhausen. And I'm just like, once it got announced, like, I tagged her and straight away she's in my DMs, like, you have to take me. If you have ever loved me, you will take me to meet him. I just want a photo. I'm like, how about we see what the rest of the talent is first before I confirm that we're going? Like, there's a part of me that already wants to go just to meet the modern day Maharaja.
I'm sad that I just didn't get a photo with Riddle when he did come out because he was doing them for free at the time and we literally just ran out of time. Like, and it was like, fuck.
What's the fucking owner's name of
Adrian.
Yeah, Adrian. When we talked to him,
Adrian,
he was hinting about fucking. He's like, oh, what's those two brothers?
Yeah, like, look,
you know,
and
he was fucking teasing.
And it's
him,
not
like,
even
mate,
secret now
don't
because
fucking
I was like, I didn't
yeah.
want to say anything on the pod with the conversation, but there's been a few people that have commented
Have
since.
said it, yeah.
He teased the Hardy Boys, and obviously Jeff
and I was
probably
like,
won't be
holy
able to because he
fuck.
doesn't have the same money that WWE does to kind of get the visa and stuff with the
criminal
history.
like,
But
stuff, yeah.
if Matt Hardy comes, I may have an aneurysm.
Oh, fuck.
There may be
I want to
moment.
meet Rebby and Goff, baby.
Dude, 100%. Like, so many people shit on Rebby, but I love her so much. And
I actually do as well.
But yeah,
But that's like, I reckon that there would be somehow a loophole that he would be able to get.
Because I remember
like,
the first proper international.
I would lose my shit, but like I've met Matt before, like so for me meeting the Hardy Boys would just be like a cool, like you're my blast from the past, like that's.
The first like proper international show I went to was House of Hardcore, and like the amount of trouble that Tommy had trying to get MVP into the country was just ridiculous.
Try to get who in?
MVP was on the House of Hardcore tour in 2017.
Oh yeah,
and it was one of those things where because he had been over with WWE, he didn't think about it because even with WWE, he still struggled to get into Canada. So he was just like, oh yeah, fuck, I've been to Australia before, let's go. Not thinking about it, which makes sense, right? Like you've been there before. What stops it? And like he got stopped at the border. They were going to deport him, and he stayed in a room for like 3 hours, and the people were googling him, and he was searched and fucking just all this shit. And I'm just like, fuck, man, like why?
Actually, there we go. I just remembered another name that I would love to have a wrestling match again, and it would never fucking ever happen. Chris Hero.
Oh, dude. Yep. But Chris Hero is one that I could see Adrian bringing out, whether he wrestles or if he just does like an authority figure kind of thing. I could see World Series doing that. Like, imagine, just bring out Claudio and just have Chris Hero as his manager for the Kings of Wrestling. Like, just for the simple fact of meeting them together. Like, I'd meet Claudio, Cesaro, or whatever you want to call him. Like,
Kings of Wrestling versus Pereira. Holy shit.
Dude. A hero only has to take like one bump. Like I don't even give a fuck. Like just to see them in the ring and the psychology and the story.
I wouldn't care if he didn't wrestle at all. Just let me see that roaring elbow.
Dude, that's what I mean though. Like just the psychology and the storytelling and the build up to that inevitable elbow would just chef's kiss. Like that would just. I love that you're one of those wrestlers though that have no shame in being a mark. Like we've been talking for over 2 hours, and I'll probably trim out like the little bit obviously before we went on air, and maybe clear some dead space here and there in between thinking about questions just to keep the flow. But like we've just been marking out, and that's literally why I started this podcast, and I'm really enjoying this conversation.
It's one of them things. Like I'm obviously like not a big drinker as much as I used to be anymore, but like I went out and brought a bottle of Terramana tequila that was made by The Rock, just for the sheer fact of it was made by The Rock.
Actually, I saw that the other day, and obviously I don't, I've never actually met you personally, but the little shout out where you're like, you finally got Mama Vercetti to drink tequila because it was The Rock's tequila.
Oh.
I'm like that'd be how I get my mum to drink tequila. I'd be like, The Rock made this, Mum. Like that's The Rock's. Like
it was actually really funny. Like I had one of my nephews come over to use it the other day, and I pulled it out, and I was like. I looked at his mum, so my sister, because my nephew's 17. And I was like, do you care if I give him a shot? Like, he's around all of us. Like, it's going to be fine.
Hey, in Australia, he's 16. It's legal with parental consent. So.
And she was like, yeah, like, that's fine, whatever. And I was like, all I did was just pop the tequila. So all you would have heard was, and Mum comes out. She's like, is that what I think that is? And I was like, gonna assume I have to pour you one. And she's like, yep. And like standing there in the kitchen all giddy because it's like, she's about to have like the tequila again. Tequila. And I'm just like, fuck's sake. Oh, like, here we go. Here's a fun Vercetti mum story that will pop the fuck out of you both. So for my 18th and my 21st birthday, my mother did not indulge an alcoholic beverage with me. We were at the pub for Spade's 18th. And she has a beer with Spade for Spade's 18th. And I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like I am your biological child.
Trolled by Vercetti.
Still to this day, like if you go back to that post like that I put up about my mother having that shot, he actually comments that on the post as well. But it's just like,
I'm going to go back later and have a look at that just so that I can like react to his comment now.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
But like, yeah. It's one of them things. Like, because I saw my friend Ben comment on the post asking if they will ever see me in the ring again.
Well, that's kind of what I alluded to before when I was talking about like coming back from the retirement. Like,
yeah,
I think this is a good way to like segue into the plugs and stuff. Nova, if you want to segue into the plugs, and then Johnny can kind of hit that and then just elaborate on that before we wrap it up.
Yeah, pretty much just like what do you like? Where can we find you? Your social media like handles and stuff.
So I am on Facebook as Johnny Vercetti. Honestly, I could not tell you the handle of it to
if you
save
just type
my
in
life.
Johnny Vercetti, you'll find it because that's how I found you to tag you on the pod page earlier.
Yep.
My Instagram is obviously just _ Johnny Vercetti.
Like I will put the links as well, but I find that a lot of people listen to it on their phones and stuff, so they can just as they're listening go, oh fuck yeah, Instagram fucking at Jim Bob Pro Wrestler 69, fucking.
Yeah, so they're the two main socials that I have. I have created a couple merch websites, but it's also one of them ones where I haven't actually followed through like with merch to a degree. Like I do have a Redbubble account that has like the current logo that I'm actually yet to debut at shows. Like on gear.
Well, there you go. That's something for me to to link below, so you can
grab that.
Because obviously I do pro wrestling tees, and I only get like $10 back. Do you get? You get anything back from the Redbubble, or?
So I had somebody buy leggings and a shirt. So I think in total they paid ballpark like $50. Like I honestly couldn't tell you the exact price.
That's not too bad. So you get a kickback though, because I know with Redbubble that's one of those ones where they've got a lot of designs, but it can be very tricky on there.
I did get a kickback.
Okay, cool.
I can't exactly remember. Like, this is 2+ years
I know
ago
that's
now.
fine. I just wanted to make sure, like, I'll link it below. That way, you know, you're actually getting...
Making sure you get, like,
actually getting
out
the
of it.
money, because like, I know that can be very tricky with some of those sites, because I've bought way too much shit off Redbubble, but I've never actually asked any of the wrestlers whose merch I've bought, because I've bought Andy Rhodes and a couple of other Aussie wrestlers have their stuff on there, and I've bought their merch, and I never actually asked them, like, if they actually got a kickback from it or not.
I think I got like $19 back. Like honest to God, I could not tell you to save my life.
But just to segue, Johnny, like the last part of Nova's question is just, you know, do you have any upcoming appearance and matches? Like obviously Ben said, will we see Vercetti back in the ring? You did say you're content, but do you have anything coming up or anything that you wanting to do?
At this exact moment, like as of the 10th of the 9th, 2024.
So keeping in mind this will drop on the Sunday the 22nd, so if anything is going to be announced, you can let us know. But
fine. As of this date on the 22nd, there is nothing currently set in stone, but there is a possibility, and this is dropping before I've even reached out, that Vercetti could appear somewhere on November 23rd.
Excellent.
That is the only insight I'm giving.
See, I also have a show on November 23rd, but I don't think it's that from what I know, but I'm just the messenger that gets told to make shit, so I don't fucking know.
Yeah, so like I need to do my due diligence, and I need to reach out to A, B, C, and D people, because it's only been something that I've been thinking about the last couple of days, and especially now that I have my gear back, it is one of them things where I'm like, do I reach out? Do I not reach out? But it'll either involve a very long drive or a flight. So that's
fair enough.
That's a bit of an insight.
So you guys can read between the lines there, but fair enough. Nothing official. This is just Johnny spitballing, which is still cool. That's all right. We're all fantasy bookers here, brother.
There is nothing planned in Newcastle. I'll leave it at that.
But I think with that being said, yeah, just buy the merch and I'll link it below. And as I said, by the time I trim this down, it'll probably be like, 2 hours 15, 2 hours 10. Plus,
that's right.
The intro and outro is going to make it 2.5 hours. But
just slide into my DM.
But yeah, no, that's cool, man. I appreciate you jumping on, and because as I said, this was like we had so many people lined up, and for whatever reason, every person just said no and and that's why we just do the casting calls, because I have a really long list and I'm legally blind, and sometimes I just like, so many people say they want to be on the pod and they want to come back on the pod, but I like having first time people on there because it's just I like equal opportunity. I like to be fair. I like people to get their story across, get themselves across, and I think with the amount of ranting we've done on this, we've definitely got a great look into both Johnny Vercetti, the wrestler, and just Johnny Vercetti as a person. So I think we've covered pretty much all bases, to be honest. But yeah, I just appreciate you jumping on and having a chat with us tonight, man.
Realistically, the difference between Johnny Vercetti the person and Johnny Vercetti the wrestler is one's a cunt, the other one is only sometimes a cunt.
See, I was going to say it's just wrestler name versus shoot name, but then he basically said a cunt. I'm like, well, I can't agree with that because then I'm just calling him a cunt.
No, you can definitely agree. Originally, I was going to say like one wears pink and the other one doesn't, but like I have a pair of like pastel pink shorts that I wear everywhere now, and I'm just like, God damn it.
One wears pink most of the time. The other one just wears pink some of the time.
And one wears pink just to punch people in the face.
Oh, excellent. But no, I think definitely don't yuck someone's yum. That's 100% the episode title after all that.
Do not yuck somebody's yum.
But no, I appreciate you jumping on, my dude. I'll let you go so we can. Honestly, I'm probably going to go to bed and then just edit it tomorrow. But yeah, I appreciate you jumping on and having a fucking good old chat with us. And I hope the people that listen to this get a kick out of some of these stories. And mark out a little bit along with us.
And-
But yeah.
And I really hope that they don't, like, in future, for everyone that does listen, do not yuck someone's yum.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that was Johnny Vercetti, as so brilliantly put in the intro by Nova Lee, or what did I say? Jimmy Vigorous as a joke, and then he said they were calling him like Johnny Voluptuous and Johnny Vasectomy.
Yeah.
So that just the little things that kind of get you. But no, really, really enjoyable conversation with Johnny Vercetti. And again, we ranted, we reviewed, we marked out for the marks, by the marks. But no, I really enjoyed this conversation. And again, he's got us down the rabbit hole. I think Nova Lee's actually still looking at sports jerseys currently as I look over at her. No,
I'm just waiting.
oh, you're just doom scrolling. Okay,
I'm waiting with my little notes for the match and song of the week.
Oh, okay. Well, then, with that being said, I think we'll just quickly hit this and let you repeat the song and match of the week.
Yeah.
I'll do the links and then do the plugs, and we'll get the fuck out of here because it's late. I want to go snuggle. I want to finish watching Heartbreak High because it's the remake of Heartbreak High, by the way, on Netflix, because I'm a sucker for a good old, little drama
you
slash
gotta
rom-com
remember-
slash teen movies slash series, but you know what I mean?
You gotta remember why I'm a bit off. I haven't had coffee. I haven't had an energy drink. I've been on straight water.
Nova's trying to behave herself. I did have a C4, but it's a sugar-free one, so like we're all good. But if you want to hit the song and match of the week,
Alrighty.
and then again, you can explain why we picked them, or I can explain why we picked them, and then we'll just get the fuck out of here.
So the song of the week was Hit Me Baby One More Time by Jack Black, and the match of the week was TJP versus Lynx Lewis Jr. Suplex Chapter 12, The Cruiserweight Can't Wait.
Yes, and the reason we picked that was because we obviously brought up Marty doing karaoke in the conversation. It's a Britney Spears song, but again, everyone loves Jack Black, and it's very topical because he just released his cover for Kung Fu Panda 4. I haven't even seen Kung Fu Panda 4. I haven't even seen Kung Fu Panda 3. Hashtag what are words. Buy the t-shirt on ProWrestlingTees.com, which is in the link tree below, which I'll get to in a moment. And the match was just, again, TJP was mentioned a few times. Lynx Lewis Jr. was mentioned a few times. It just made sense. And he mentioned Spade a few times as well. And obviously Spade, notoriously everyone knows he's the owner of Suplex. So it just felt very, very topical, in my opinion, in Nova's opinion. And I'm sure once you guys hear this, you'll understand why as well. But the link tree, Nova Lee has one for all of her socials and all of the podcast socials. And I do believe, Nova, you have added the Patreon, the new Patreon. Subscribe.
I did it the day of.
$5 Australian, $3 US for the lowest tier, which is Rogue. You get early access to all episodes 2 days early, wherever appropriate. So if we can keep these in the can like we have now, obviously this isn't going out for like 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks, which is awesome. If we can keep doing this, there'll definitely be 2 days in a row. But yeah, and then we've got the $10 tier, which is called the Essential, where you still get the early access because you obviously get the previous perk, plus the opportunity to ask us about a topic you want us to address in the intro for whatever the next current episode will be upon you asking. Episode 15. Tier 3 for $15. I almost said, what is my brain? For Tier 3 for $15 Australian, you get obviously the 2 previous perks, plus the opportunity to pick a topic for a full episode, whether that be a watch-along, a Markapalooza, or a top 10. Again, there's 3 different formats of Markapaloozas. You can take your pick. Obviously, with 2 of them, we will need at least 2 to 3 weeks to prepare. And even with the Rumble format, we'd still prefer to have, a week or 2 notice.
Yeah.
But yeah, expect about a month, bit of leeway, especially for the top 10s and the Markapaloozas, especially if it is the voting format one. But yeah, it's there. You can pick stuff like that. You can choose a watch along, and then that leads to tier number 4. By the way, tier number 3 is called Main Event, and tier number 4, which is the top tier, I have called Supernova, because she is my supernova. She is my queen.
Supernova baby.
Yeah, shout out to Samuel for Revenant for that AI theme. It's a fucking banger. I actually had a lot of fun making Miss Nova Lee that little mock entrance video. Who knows? Maybe you'll get to use it eventually at a Extreme
Maybe one
Capital
day.
Wrestling or
Who
ICW
knows?
Central West or ICW Canberra or wherever we end up. But yeah, the final tier, obviously, you get all of those perks. And if we do a watch-along episode, whether that's one we're doing just on our own merit or one that you guys have picked, and again, if you do pick a lot watch-along, please be sure to make sure we haven't done it before, because I don't have a list of them. I know vaguely, if someone says it, I'll be like, oh yeah, I've done that. But make sure that we haven't done it. And usually the episodes that so I've done the WrestleMania 17 Battle Royal with Big James, but all of the other watch-alongs have either been one I did by myself, which was the King of the Ring countdown that WWE did, and then I told my personal order to their order and da-da-da. But all of the other watch-alongs have all been with Nova Lee, back when she was just Teak / Mrs Crossfire, and that it's in the description of all of the episodes. I'm pretty sure we've done it for every single one of them.
Yeah.
I think it should be in the description. If it's not, fire the host, aka me. But yeah, it should be all there. So you get video footage of the actual reaction again. That's just our reaction, not the actual match, because I don't want to get sued. And if you have the $20, Supernova tier, you will get a shout out in the intro to every episode as long as you are an active subscriber. I don't know why I struggle so far to get that across when I've written it down and I've got it, but it's just, getting flustered. It's getting late. But yeah, as I said, my link tree contains all the podcast socials, my Crossfire socials, at Crossfire_graphics on Instagram is a big one, which we do talk about, obviously, in the conversation with the 8x10s and the da-da-da-da. They are $40 each, or 3 for $100 if you want a cheap one. And hey, if you hit me up, I'm sure we can work out a deal, because times are tough and I got medical bills to pay, because I have a GoFundMe, but I don't want to beg people to just hand out. I'd prefer to, give people something back, in return, basically. And I am, I've got a bunch of ring gear for sale. We've just got a bunch of wrestling memorabilia for sale. So check the tabs on my regular Instagram, some Sesh_LJ, but it's all there. Amazon wishlist. It's all there. Everything's there. And of course, check all of Johnny Vercetti's links as well. His Facebook, his Instagram, and make sure to go check out Redbubble. Buy some of his merch. Give him a little kickback. And yeah, obviously, in terms of shows, October 20th. This is going out on the 22nd of September /20th if you have the Patreon. So that'll take out. Look, Alpha Energy and Inevitable is on the 21st, but I won't bother linking that because it won't be public until the 22nd, so it'll be the day after. But October 20th, MXW Sunday Sesh. The sets, Mildura, MXW, as I said, the link will be there. October 26th, the big one, the Emma Butler Memorial Show that we keep harping on about. We'll have shirts for sale, limited sizes, limited quantity, $30 a shirt, $10 goes to Emma's charity. Tickets to that show will be below as well. November 23rd, Extreme Capital Wrestling, Hard Day's Fight. Tickets in there. November 30th, MXW, All for One, their big Rumble show with the winner of that. Obviously, this takes place in Geelong. The winner of that Rumble will get a heavyweight championship shot at the next show that is in Geelong. Whenever that is, whenever they return to Geelong after the Rumble, whoever wins the Rumble, they're guaranteed that main event spot of winning the championship. So the link to that will be as well. And obviously, Richie Taylor versus Bobby Fish is going to be the main event of that All for One show. So definitely check that out. Definitely going to be a banger. But yeah, I think we've covered all the bases. We're trying to get in and get out so we don't rant for too long. But yeah, I am the Essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
Don't yuck someone's yum, and you have just been caught
In conversation. Shakalaka.